Chapter 105. However, since the Soul Coin exchange was online, Lu Wu followed the old rules and added a service fee. Although there were many guaranteed trading platforms at this stage, due to the complexity of the procedures and the need to wait, many players would choose to trade directly for convenience. However, if the poverty makes me trash player was right and soul coins became the universal currency, Lu Wu was horrified at the thought of how huge the daily trading volume would be. Crayon Shinchan replied to Baiwe Hierarch, Baiwe Xiao Air, sit down. Lu Wu quickly shared his thoughts with Bailey. This undoubtedly saved the players a lot of time. It could be said that the appearance of this function benefited both the players and Lu Wu. In other words, if two players wanted to buy and sell soul coins, the buyer and seller of soul coins would have to deposit the money and soul coins with Lu Wu at the same time. Then, Lu Wu would deliver the coins to the two players who needed them. She copied the account information of this account directly into the artifact, and then connected the more powerful artifact to the network to realize real-time transactions between the players. In the later stages, the daily trading volume would be a great harvest for Lu Wu. Just like the 500 soul coins that Lu Wu sold to Yi Shui in the past, it was very unsafe, and it was very easy to be deceived. Peppa Boar, not bad, not bad. However, I don't understand why the Soul Coin top-up channel hasn't been opened since the Soul Coin exchange function was released. I'm starting to worry that Battle Online is going to go bankrupt. Laughing emoji, Baiwa Hierarch replied to Crayon Shinchan. Speaking of love, I have to say this. Back then, there was a kid named Li Xiaoyao who asked me if I believed in love. Then, because I said that I believe in science, he chased me and beat me up. Laughing emoji, Showtide Devil. I feel that the content of the game is getting richer. I'm really looking forward to watching this game grow step by step. Keep it up. The post posted by the player named Poverty Makes Me Trash also made Lu Wu ponder. As for soul coins, no matter how strong Lu Wu became, the value of soul coins would never fall. Initially, Lu Wu planned to spend another 30,000 yuan to buy an intelligent customer service online. After all, the trading volume would only increase, and he would not be able to take care of it all. However, Bailey's all-powerful assistant took care of everything at the critical moment. It was the same for the buyers. With this listing model, they didn't need to look for a seller. If they wanted soul coins, they could just top up our coins at the Soul Coin exchange and look for a suitable ratio to purchase them. After 3 hours of discussion, Lu Wu and Bei Li finally decided on the new function of the game, the Soul Coin exchange. In other words, players who wanted to sell their soul coins did not need to look for buyers. They only needed to place their soul coins on the Soul Coin exchange in the form of items and add in the percentage they wanted to sell. Yi Shui is the cutest. Great. It was fast and convenient. The officials were finally showing their support. Originally, Lu Wu could have chosen to take 1% from both sides. However, Lu Wu's desire for our coins was getting lower and lower. After he started cultivating, he knew that he would have to transcend the mortal world sooner or later. After Bailey confirmed that this function would not go wrong, she immediately put it into use in the game. Shueli_the_strongest. I'm so happy. I've been thinking about this problem since I saw the analysis done by the thread owner of Poverty Makes Me Trash yesterday. Since there's no guarantee for the trading of soul coins in the game, and the officials don't open a top-up channel, this is a huge hidden danger. I didn't expect a soul coin exchange to appear the next day. I give the officials a like. By the way, where's the top-up channel? It's still not open? Believe it or not, I can kill you with one shadow step and one blood slash. Angry emoji. The existence of this function was equivalent to the existence of a middleman. If Battle Online really became popular all over the world, then players from all over the world would definitely choose to exchange their own country's currency for soul coins in order to spend more money. Wouldn't it become the universal currency, just like what the players said? Gold Raider. Awesome, this will save me a lot of time. I can use the extra game time to continue carrying bricks. I give a like. When Lu Wu first saw this post, he felt that it was ridiculous. However, he thought about it carefully. In order to prevent the players from thinking that the service fee was too expensive and choosing to continue trading face-to-face, Luwu only set the service fee at 1%. Crayon_Shinchan replied to Peppa_Boar, using love to generate electricity. The power of love is endless. How could it go bankrupt? Laughing emoji. Invincible_loneliness. Great. I've been cheated a few times in the group to collect soul coins. In the end, I could only use my reputation as a guarantee and let others trade soul coins first. However, with the soul coin exchange, I don't have to worry about anything. I'll collect soul coins on top of that. To Luwu, soul coins are naturally more important than money. Hence, the 1% was collected from soul coins instead of her coins. Although this function was named the soul coin exchange, it was not for Luwu to sell soul coins himself. It was to ensure that the players' soul coin transactions were absolutely safe and reliable. With this thought in mind, Luwu also realized that there was a huge bug in the game. That was, the game did not have a set of mature transaction protection functions. With Luwu as the middleman, the safety was naturally guaranteed. The players in the forum were also full of praise for this new function. This also increased the efficiency by a notch. Basically, the players did not have to wait. As long as the soul coin exchange received the transfer from the players, it would automatically process the transaction. Within a few seconds, the soul coins would be deposited into the backpack of the buyer. The money would also be directly transferred to the seller's account through the artifact's connection to the internet. Other than the players' praises, during the period when the soul coin exchange was launched, Luwu also actively adopted the players' feedback and suggestions in the forum. He once again upgraded the function of the soul coin exchange and added an additional selling mode similar to the auction house. After finalizing the plan, Luwu opened a top-up channel on the website and applied for an online virtual account to store the AR coins of the players. For Luwu, the AR coins were sufficient for his current use. Perhaps one day, he would not need them anymore. Although the 1% commission was not a lot, as the number of players increased, the transaction volume would also increase. After that, the two of them began to discuss how to regularize this transaction function. As the number of players was only a few 100,000, this transaction loophole had not been highlighted yet. Chapter 106. After the soul coin exchange went online, Luwu started designing the content of the game again. At the current stage, the number of players had reached 600,000. In the artifact space, the construction of the 100 cities that he had prepared had also been completed. Luwu planned to officially put them into use and start the first guild hegemony tournament. Luwu first called a man and told her about his idea. After the two of them discussed for a while, a man said that the shark tournament platform would start the preparation phase. She would inform Luwu when everything was ready. While a man was busy making arrangements for the tournament, Luwu also started his promotion for the tournament. After the update, the players discovered the appearance of a new cinematic when they went online. As the background music played, the images began to appear. A more suitable background music should be the opening song of Tu Hongong's Wind and Cloud 2. In the image, the camera was focused on a brown desert. 100 majestic cities were faintly discernible amidst the sandstorm. A sorrowful and vicissitudes of life assaulted one's senses. Then an old voice sounded. On this land that is burning with blood and fire, the 100 cities that symbolize the pinnacle of power and power have once again ushered in the opportunity to awaken. Following which, the image zoomed out, and the hundreds of cities in the player's eyes became tiny. Then, a golden throne appeared above each of these cities. The old voice appeared again. There is no true invincibility. There is no eternal winner. The former king has left. At this moment, a black silhouette with blurry features appeared on each throne. Only a true powerhouse can take over the city, command a region, and become a new hero. As the voice faded away, the image began to flash past the cities with different architectural styles. The players could clearly see the appearance of these cities. Fight for the 100 cities who will rise and fall in this world. Then, countless silhouettes suddenly appeared. Their battle cries shook the sky. They were all charging towards these cities that symbolized the pinnacle of power. You're born to achieve great things. The battlefield is full of people. Only by killing 9 million people can you be the hero of heroes. Will there be a place for you in this supreme throne? As the aged voice faded away, flags of different colors were raised on the hundreds of cities, which made a loud noise in the sand-filled sky. The first 100 Cities Guild Hegemony Tournament. Event requirements. This event will last for 6 hours. Registration must be done by guild, and the guild must have at least 300 members. Rules of the competition. All registered guilds will be teleported to the 100 Fortresses Hegemony map after the event officially starts. After a 10-minute safety protection period, guild players can choose one of the 100 fortresses to challenge. Note, each city gate has 5 million HP and durability. After attacking the city and capturing the city flag, the guild will officially become the owner of the city and can accept challenges from other guilds. Winning requirement. Your guild must defend the city until the end of the event. If the city flag is stolen during the defending period, the defending guild members will be teleported out of the city, turning from defending to attacking. Event special benefit. This event has canceled the 3-hour respawn mechanism. Instead, players will respawn 10 minutes after death at the center of the map. 100 Cities Hegemon Reward. 1. The winner's guild will be awarded 3,000 soul coins. Secondly, guild members who obtain the rights to own a city will receive the red title 100 Cities Elite. 100 Fortresses Elites, 30 days red. Symbol of the winner of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony competition. Title attributes. 5% extra experience gained from killing monsters. 10 free entry qualifications to the Instance Dungeon 3. The guild leader who obtains the city will receive the special purple title King City Hegemony. King City Hegemony, 30 days purple. Symbol of the owner of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony competition. Title attributes. 10% extra experience gained from killing monsters. 30 free entry qualifications to the Instance Dungeon. 4. The guild will receive the priority to purchase the guild encampment. The appearance of the official announcement, in conjunction with the cinematics, caused an uproar among the players. The sudden appearance of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony competition caught all the major guilds unprepared. Many guilds immediately held meetings and started to recruit a large number of people. For this guild hegemony competition, most of the guilds lowered their entry requirements in order to amaze the world in this epic war. While the players were preparing for the competition, the HP potions in the game shop became a best-selling item and were constantly being manufactured and sold. However, the impact of this event was far from that. Such a generous reward made all the guild players jealous. They clearly knew what it meant to win this 100 Fortresses Hegemony competition. Just the experience gained from killing monsters would allow their guild to be ahead of the other guilds in a short period of time. There was also the priority to purchase the encampment that could help the guild develop. This hegemony competition was of great significance to the major guilds. The price of resources in the game had also risen because of this. The sales of consumable items in the game shop made Luwu earn a lot of money. However, what surprised the players was that Battle Online actually cooperated with the Char platform for the live broadcast of the competition. Many players clearly knew how huge the live broadcast traffic of the Char platform was. In other words, this was a competition that attracted the attention of all the players in the country. Therefore, how to show off their guild in the competition had become a hot topic among the players. Of course, there were many casual players who could not participate in this event. They directly logged into the Shark platform through the link posted by Lu Wu and bought the live tickets to the Dragon Metropolis Stadium, intending to support the first tournament of Battle Online. There were even many players who opened analysis posts and predictions posts in the forum to analyze the popular guilds in the game at this stage and predict which guilds would have a chance of winning the city. There were also some guilds who felt that they were not strong enough to take down a city. They began to unite with other guilds of equal strength to plan on how to take down a city together and then decide who would be the castellan of the city. Naturally, the small guilds were not the only ones who planned this in advance. There were also big guilds who began to rope in the small guilds with promises of benefits, hoping that they would become their allied forces in the 100 Fortresses hegemony competition and help them defend the city. The real battlefield was far from as simple as imagined. All the players were actively preparing for the upcoming war on the battlefield. Chapter 107. After the announcement of the tournament, the Shark Tournament platform, wherein Man was busy. The higher-ups of the Shark Tournament were all optimistic about Battle Online. Therefore, they prepared very carefully for the tournament. They rented the Dragon City Sports Center as the venue for the live broadcast. They even got the best host of the tournament, Fong Ping, to host the tournament. They even specially invited a professional band to produce the theme song for the tournament as the opening show of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament. Luwu did not need to do anything in terms of publicity. The Shark Tournament platform took the initiative to advertise. They paid for the tournament out of their own pocket and began to post the tournament announcement on various traffic platforms. Because of this, more players noticed the game. The popularity of Battle Online rose again, and the number of players increased at an astonishing rate. All the arrangements for the tournament entered the intense preparation stage. During this period, and Man called and told Luwu another piece of good news. Many gaming media had contacted the Shark Tournament platform and were ready to report on the tournament. This undoubtedly made Luwu excited because the period of significant growth of players had arrived in advance. Even the traffic on Platform 173, the only platform that could download Battle Online, had skyrocketed. Wu was so excited that he wanted to ask Luwu out for a drink to celebrate. However, Luwu naturally rejected him. After all, he was just a cat at this stage. He did not want to drink, as he was afraid that he would scare Wu to death. However, Luwu did not stay idle. He once again optimized the 100 Fortresses map stored in the artifact to ensure that there would be no mistakes in the details of the tournament. At the same time, he and Bailey began to set up some Easter eggs in the game. For example, in a city called Extreme City, there was a small golden dragon. Players who obtained and consumed the golden dragon would gain a 5-minute double increase in their attributes. Another example was the border of the 100 Fortresses map. There was an invincible grass that could make players invincible for 10 seconds. The addition of many Easter eggs added to the fun of the game. Of course, the addition of these Easter eggs did not cost Luwu any soul coins. After all, it was carried out in the artifact space. Just like the unlimited resurrection of players, because it was carried out in the space, there was no need to worry about damage to the soul. The only thing that made Luwu spend a lot of money in this event was the reward for the winner of the tournament. What made the players even more excited was a piece of news that Luwu revealed on the official website. In this event, whichever guild occupied the city of Baiki among the 100 cities, the process of their city war would be recorded in the history of the war in the form of a video. This news undoubtedly made the players, who had always wanted to become the #1 guild in the game, extremely excited. The palace at the center of the land of Tsongshu. A white-haired man with an abnormally youthful appearance looked down at the ghost kings and ghost generals, sighed softly, and waved his hand, signaling for them to leave. After his subordinates had all left, he pressed the golden scepter beside the throne. The throne slowly moved, revealing a passage below. Looking at the pitch-black passage, His Excellency Tsongshu had a complicated expression on his face. After letting out another sigh, he stepped into it. As he appeared, bonfires were lit all around him, illuminating the space below. After going several hundred meters deep, a spacious secret room appeared in front of him. In the center of this secret room, a beautiful woman dressed in chiffon was imprisoned there with her limbs shackled by iron chains. Looking at the beautiful woman, His Excellency Tsongshu's expression became very complicated. There was heartache, anger, regret, and all kinds of emotions mixed together, making His Excellency Tsongshu look very worried. At this moment, the woman suddenly opened her eyes and looked at His Excellency Tsongshu. Looking at the woman's slightly playful eyes, His Excellency Tsongshu's body trembled slightly. "I'm ready. This time, I swear to fight with my life on the line. If I succeed, I'll let you out and we'll still have a bright future. Although you've been planning for 10,000 years, You're no longer the Sangshu who became stronger for the sake of becoming stronger. So, you're destined to fail. After all, you shouldn't have taken this position. The woman's words made His Excellency Sangshu's face gradually turn ferocious. B*TCH, you have to know how much effort I've put into this. Don't you know who I'm doing this for? You B*TCH. B*TCH. Why do you have to humiliate yourself? How can you face me? Looking at the extremely angry His Excellency Sangshu, the woman laughed self-deprecatingly. If it wasn't for my efforts, you wouldn't have become His Excellency Sangshu, and you wouldn't have become the Lord of the land of Sangshu. Hearing this, His Excellency Sangshu's face became abnormally pale. He recalled the day he became His Excellency Sangshu, when the woman before him, dressed in red and crying, said to him, "If I didn't have my lips tasted by tens of thousands of people, how would I have become His Excellency Sangshu?" Looking at the woman, His Excellency Sangshu's heart ached. Even though he was now His Excellency and was in charge of the land of Sangshu in the underworld, he was just one of the living beings in this reincarnated world. He couldn't transcend, and he couldn't even protect the person he loved the most. After taking another deep look at the woman, His Excellency Sangshu turned around and left. However, with every step he took, his body would tremble slightly, as if he was suffering a great deal in his heart. I've been a knife in the hands of others my whole life, but this time I want to be the one holding the knife, even if my body is crushed and my soul scattered. After His Excellency Sangshu left, the woman finally shed tears and murmured softly, "Transcend? It's so difficult. If you lose, I'll just go with you." Her beautiful eyes slowly closed as a drop of tear rolled down her cheek, sparkling in the dark secret chamber. Chapter 108. It was the second day of the preparation for the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament. Bailey, who was watching a movie with Lu Wu on the sofa, suddenly froze. She took out a small notebook from her pocket and started reading it carefully. Lu Wu naturally saw the change in Bailey. He turned around and looked at her curiously. "What's wrong?" "Someone is trying to go against the heavens." Bailey answered seriously after a moment of silence. "Go against the heavens? What do you mean?" Lu Wu was stunned. "Wu, since you've started cultivating, there's no harm in telling you some things. Do you know what's in the sky?" Bailey raised her hand and pointed upwards. "The stars? The moon? The sun?" Bailey picked Lu Wu up from the sofa and started massaging him with all her might. Naughty, naughty, Lu Wu's hair stood on end after his cultivation. He leaped away from Bailey's hand and leaped on her head with the help of the sofa. He raised his claw and gave her a slap. "Have you forgotten that you can't defeat me now?" Bailey's eyes were filled with tears after the slap. "I forgot. Tell me, what's going on?" Lu Wu, who was the boss again, asked proudly. Bailey rubbed her head and said gloomily, "Do you remember what you promised me when we first met?" Lu Wu began to recollect his memories. After recalling the scene of that day, he smiled awkwardly. "Are you talking about me borrowing troops from Emperor Qin to attack the underworld?" Bailey was furious. She raised her hand and was about to grab Lu Wu. However, she seemed to have thought of something and stopped herself. "You told me back then if you want to help me and become my right-hand man. After we're done with the underworld, we'll attack the heavens and become the masters of the 3 realms." Lu Wu felt even more embarrassed. He was joking and did not take it seriously. He had forgotten about it after such a long time, but he did not expect Bailey to remember it so clearly. "Could it be the heavens?" Lu Wu asked curiously. Bailey nodded. "Since the underworld exists, and there are cultivators in the mortal world, then there's naturally the immortal world, which is the heavens. Do you remember when you asked me where the land deities in the mortal world went?" I pointed above my head. "Actually, I meant the heavens." Lu Wu's expression turned solemn. "Then what do you mean by defying the heavens? Someone wants to attack the heaven realm?" Bailey shook her head. "I don't know what his purpose is, nor do I know who he is, but he has activated the Eam Talisman. That means he has become a member of the Anti-Heaven Alliance." Upon hearing Bailey's explanation, Lu Wu's eyes widened. "Damn it. It seems like I've also obtained the Een talisman that can travel back and forth between Een and Yang. Am I a member of the Anti-Heaven Alliance too? Lu Wu calmed down. Of course not. Your Een talisman has already merged with the God Weapon. It has become a part of the God Weapon. Therefore, you no longer have the symbol of the Anti-Heaven Alliance. Phew. Lu Wu let out a long sigh of relief. He almost thought that he was going to start a war with the gods. But your ancestor used to be a member of the Anti-Heaven Alliance, Bailey said with a smile while squinting her eyes. Lu Wu widened his eyes again. Why did my ancestor join such an organization? Because the heavenly Tao is unfair. Lu Wu. Millions of years ago, the heaven realm, the human realm, and the underworld, ghost realm, were the three great realms that stood between heaven and earth. Among them, the human realm was the most powerful one. Every 100 years, there would be geniuses who would attain enlightenment during cultivation and become earth immortals. There were even a few human sovereigns who ruled over the world. That was the true golden age of cultivation. It could be said that everyone in the human realm was like dragons, enjoying the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was the strongest force in the three realms. But do you know why there is a lack of spiritual chi in the human realm, making it difficult for people to cultivate? Lu Wu was stunned. Then he shook his head. Because the earth immortals knew that if they did not curb the development of the human realm would one day rule over the three realms. Therefore, they did something despicable, which was to send a mighty person into the underworld and seal the spiritual chi passage from the underworld to the world of the living, the 6 paths of reincarnation gate. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was getting thinner. Naturally, the earth immortals in the human realm realized it and personally went to the underworld to investigate. However, the despicable immortals had already made preparations. They disguised themselves as the mighty people of the underworld and attacked the investigation in the human realm. They even killed all the earth immortals who came to investigate in the underworld. The process during this period was complicated, so I won't go into the details with you. In short, because of this, an earth-shattering war broke out between the human realm and the underworld. This war almost caused the entire underworld to fall apart. If it weren't for the emperors of the underworld who swore by the 6 paths of reincarnation, this war might have destroyed the underworld, one of the 3 realms. The mistake had been made, but it was too late to realize it. At this time, the gods of the world of immortals were like chess players who had calculated every step of their chess pieces. It was also at this moment that the real mastermind behind the scenes appeared. The first thing they did was to cut off the other source of spiritual chi in the human realm. At this stage, even if they discovered the conspiracy of the world of immortals, the human realm had also lost a lot of combat power after the war between the human realm and the underworld. There was no way for them to fight against the world of immortals. Moreover, the world of immortals had also cut off their hope of rising again in cultivation. After all, the 2 sources of spiritual chi had been cut off. The human realm could no longer restore the golden age of cultivation, let alone give birth to a peerless powerhouse like the human emperor. After that, the spiritual chi in the human realm had withered. Because of this, countless battles for resources broke out. The cultivation forces finally came to an end and gradually faded out of people's sight. After listening to Bei Li's explanation, Lu Wu frowned. Then why did you say that the earth immortals had gone to heaven? Under the great fear of the depletion of spiritual chi, some of the earth immortals chose to betray the human clan and join the heaven realm, becoming their dogs. As for the rest of the earth immortals who were unwilling to live in seclusion, they went to the extraterritorial realm in search of an opportunity to revive the human clan. What about the human emperor? Aren't they as old as the heavens? Where did they go? Bailey shook her head. I've told you all that I can. You should know the rest. It's not good for you to listen to me any further because your soul is too weak to keep this secret. But let me tell you one thing. If you want to be the ruler, then behind the world of immortals, Lu Wu, who was listening attentively, suddenly trembled. He lay on the sofa and wailed. This was because he felt a stabbing pain in his soul, as if a thorny brush was sweeping across his body. Upon seeing this, Bailey quickly took out a few grains of spiritual rice from the artifact, crushed them, and fed them to Lu Wu. The spiritual energy filled his body and dispersed throughout his entire body. The piercing pain subsided, and Lu Wu slowly opened his bloodshot eyes. At this moment, Lu Wu's face was full of fear, but his heart was still full of doubts. However, he knew that he really could not listen anymore. Bailey did not lie to him. Knowing too much would definitely kill him. Chapter 109. Bailey's words made Lu Wu realize that there were so many secrets hidden in this seemingly ordinary world. Wu, don't worry too much. Just focus on the game. You have to know that you now control the most talented human race in the three realms, an existence that even the world of immortals feared. With the help of the artifact, your future will be earth-shattering, so you don't have to be afraid of any forces. Lu Wu nodded in response to Bailey's consolation. It was just as Bailey had said. Now that he had the artifact and the most talented race, as long as he was given time, no one would be able to stop him from progressing. So, someone is trying to go against the heavens? Bailey nodded. It should be one of the forces in the underworld. I'm not sure what he's trying to do, but you better stop his dangerous behavior. Why? The current strength of the human world and the underworld cannot compete with the heavens, let alone withstand a war. His idea is too naive. Not only is he destined to fail, he will also drag the other two realms down. Lu Wu took a deep breath. What should I do? If he wants to go against the heavens, he will definitely come to the human world with the help of the Een Talisman and look for an opportunity. As long as he passes through the 6 paths of reincarnation, I will sense it. When that happens, I will inform you and give you advice. Lu Wu nodded his head vigorously after hearing this. The underworld, the burial grounds. After the earth-shattering battle between the demonic god and Hitorigami, the resting place of the dead had turned into ruins. At this moment, a player was walking on the cracked ground. At the same time, his eyes were wandering as if he was searching for something. After crossing a steep stone pillar, Hui's face was filled with surprise. He quickly walked towards the remains of a bone spirit that was buried in gravel with only half an arm exposed. After some effort, he cleared the gravel and finally revealed the bone spirit warrior underneath. Then, he started to pick and choose from the bone spirit's body. After choosing some parts that were still in good condition, he started to wander again. 2 hours later, Hui's figure appeared at the periphery of the burial grounds. After finding a spacious area, Hui opened up the channel and poured all the bone spirit warrior's remains that he had collected on the ground. Then, he opened up the photo album function in the game and found the photos of the secret method of the zombie spirit sect that he had recorded in reality. Looking at the ancient book, Hui's face revealed a hint of anticipation. Hui was different from many young people in reality. He believed in the existence of God and the existence of cultivators in the world because his grandfather was a cultivator. Hui's impression of his grandfather was that he was eccentric and unsociable. He spent his entire life in the mass grave at the back of the village. He built a thatched hut there and would not come out unless there was something urgent at home. However, during one visit to the village, the young Hui was completely stunned by his eccentric grandfather. That summer, Hui was led by his parents back to the village to visit his grandparents. In order to surprise his grandfather, he went up the mountain alone and went to the mass grave where his grandfather often stayed. Because of this, he discovered his grandfather's secret. When he sneaked to the back of the mountain and approached the mass grave, he saw his grandfather's figure. At that time, he was prepared to go forward and give his grandfather a scare. However, just as he approached, Hui was horrified to find that his grandfather was holding a few broken limbs with fresh soil on them. He was even gesturing excitedly. The young Hui thought that his grandfather had killed someone. At the same time, he was too afraid and just watched from afar. His grandfather did not notice his arrival. However, what happened next made Hui dumbfounded. As his grandfather gestured, the broken limbs gradually assembled and formed a 2-meter-tall zombie. Witnessing this scene, Hui finally could not help but make a move. At that moment, his grandfather's eyes flashed with ferocity. He turned around and pointed and the zombie suddenly pounced towards him. Hui still remembered clearly that the zombie's black nails were only a few centimeters away from his neck. If his grandfather did not stop the zombie in time, he believed that he would have been dead. At that time, Hui was so scared that he cried loudly. His grandfather immediately chased the zombie to the side and picked him up. He said some comforting words, but his eyes were filled with panic. It was also that experience that made him realize that his grandfather was not an ordinary person. In the days that followed, due to his curiosity, Hui would visit his grandfather whenever it was a holiday. Influenced by many superhero movies and comics, Hui felt that he might have an extraordinary background and might possess that kind of superpower. His grandfather did not hide anything from him anymore. He told Hui that his ancestors were once practitioners of the zombie spirit sect, a cultivation force. They had mastered the secret techniques of summoning, awakening, and assembling corpses. The young Hui once told his grandfather excitedly that he wanted to learn and cultivate too. Although he would occasionally show off his skills in front of his grandson and show off his authority as a grandfather, the old man was very firm in his attitude towards Hui's desire to cultivate. He would not agree no matter what. Hui used both hard and soft tactics, but he still could not learn the secret techniques of cultivation from his grandfather. This undoubtedly made him very depressed. However, when Hui was 23 years old and in college, he received news that his grandfather was critically ill and wanted to see him for the last time. Hui rushed over from another city. When he saw his grandfather, he was horrified to find that his grandfather's face was ashen, like a withered tree that was about to rot. His entire body exuded the aura of someone who was past his prime. Seeing Hui's arrival, the old man became slightly livelier. When Hui came to his bedside, he held Hui's hand and said, "Little Hui, this is why I don't let you cultivate. I don't want you to follow me down this path of no return." Looking at the old man who loved him dearly, Hui shed tears. "You have to pay the price for what you want. Now you know the consequences. The answer you've always wanted to know. Grandpa has placed it under the straw hut. You've grown up. How do you choose? Grandpa won't stop you this time." After saying this, Hui's grandfather closed his eyes and left. With a heavy heart, Hui found the secret techniques of zombie spirit sect while he was sorting out his grandfather's belongings in the straw hut in the mass grave. At that time, Hui was hesitant. He wanted to cultivate. It was his dream since he was young, but at the same time, his grandfather's advice before he left appeared in his mind. In the end, Hui read the ancient book with the mentality of giving it a try, but definitely not cultivating. Chapter 110. From then on, Hui would often spend time studying the secret technique of zombie spirit sect. However, he still listened to his grandfather's warning and never practiced it. The reason why he wanted to test the ability of this ancient book in the game was because he discovered something strange in the game yesterday. That day, he and his team members were exploring the Naraka Realm Instance Dungeon. They encountered an elite monster, Corpse Fire, and were attacked by it. As the assassin of the team, Hui wandered around Corpse Fire while it was attacking, looking for an opportunity to attack. However, he did not expect Corpse Fire to suddenly change its attack direction and pounce on him. This attack took out nearly half of his HP, and another attack came right after. Just as he was about to be killed, he suddenly noticed a fiery red bead under Corpse Fire's left armpit. Hui, who was already familiar with the secret technique of zombie spirit sect, naturally recognized this bead. In the ancient book of zombie spirit sect, it was called a leak. It was a weak point deliberately left by the zombie forge master. This was because once a zombie spirit was successfully refined, it would automatically absorb the energy of heaven and earth for itself, cultivating and growing unknowingly. This made it easy for an evil spirit to be born. The purpose of leaving this leak was to prevent the zombie spirit from devouring its master, leaving a way out for the zombie forge master. If that was the case, Hui would have thought it was just a coincidence. However, when his dagger cut through the red bead, a shocking scene happened. After the bead broke, a large amount of thick black fog flowed out from Corpse Fire's armpit. Its movements became extremely slow, allowing Hui to narrowly avoid this fatal blow. The scene of the zombie energy leaking was exactly the same as what was recorded in the ancient book. Could it be that corpse fire was also created by the zombie Forge Master? Who was extremely shocked. After the zombie energy leaked, corpse fire's strength and speed were greatly reduced, so it was easily killed by his team. However, all of this was too strange for Hu. Why would the game have the same corpse refining method as what was recorded in the ancient book? Could it be that the developer of this game was also a descendant of the zombie spirit sect? Was that why they added the same Easter egg in the game? Hu himself felt that this speculation was absurd, but he could not get it out of his head. If his speculation was correct, and the developer of this game was also a descendant of the zombie spirit sect, then perhaps the secret technique of zombie spirit sect could also be used in the game. He did not dare to learn it in reality, but in the game, he did not need to worry about his body being damaged. Therefore, Hu, who had no psychological pressure, came to the burial grounds and began to search for corpses. He wanted to learn the contents of the ancient book and piece together a zombie. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Hu waved his hand, and the pages of the album began to flip. As he read the ancient book, he pieced it together. Then, he followed the method recorded in the book and dripped his blood to summon the spirit. Although he had looked through this ancient book countless times and was very familiar with many of the pictures in it, he only realized how difficult it was to actually do it. After piecing it together, he could not have it on out, corpse on, spirit became the moo on, he on, the spirit was on, and on, he was to was he on, he spirit to technique to on. Unwilling to give up, Hu decided to try one last time. If he did not succeed, he would give up. Therefore, he pieced it together according to the method in the ancient book. This time, just as Hu had expected, it was a failure. The zombie spirit was still not awakened. Disappointed, Hu gave up completely. He did not want to waste any more time. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a game notification. Create a new character class. Zombie Forge Master. Note: do not give up after choosing. This character class does not have a systematic growth path. You have to figure it out yourself. There really was a hidden Easter egg. Was my speculation correct? Hui's face was filled with surprise. Actually, Lu Wu and Bei Li had already noticed Hu when he started piecing the zombie together. They also noticed the secret technique of zombie spirit sect in his album. Lu Wu was very surprised that players could use abilities that were not granted by artifacts. He thought that Hu was also a cultivator in the real world. However, Bailey did not think so. To her, Hui's zombie refining technique was too crude. He had not even mastered the basics of a real zombie forge master. Moreover, the strength of his soul was no different from an ordinary person. He could be said to be a complete layman, not a cultivator at all. However, his behavior had piqued Lu Wu's curiosity. He asked Bei Li if this ability could be developed under the digitalization of artifacts. According to Bei Li, the zombie refining technique that Hu used should be a branch of the cultivation system in the underworld. This kind of zombie refining technique was also very common in the underworld. As there was no information about this in artifacts, if it were to be digitalized, the subsequent growth of the character class would be a complete mystery. The biggest possibility would be that the character would be completely destroyed. After all, characters like Cursed Apostles and Rune Masters were all accumulated by the other races in the underworld for many years. The Zombie Forge Master could not be compared to the character classes in the system. Moreover, this player was a complete newbie. His growth after class advancement would at most be slightly stronger than the initial assassin character class, but it would not be comparable to the character classes in the system. However, Lu Wu still hoped that this player could walk on this path of self-exploration and increase the game's development in a variety of ways. However, he could not make a direct decision, so he left the choice to the player. After all, Lu Wu's game principle was to liberalize the players and allow them to freely unleash their potential. Because of this, the players always brought him surprises. Looking at the game notification, he was filled with excitement. He was about to press confirm. However, he suddenly hesitated again. His original goal was to become a Cursed Apostle and master the power of the Naraka realm. However, this character class had clearly stated that he could not give up. If he really made the choice, it would be too late for regrets. Moreover, this game did not allow him to delete his character and start from scratch. The price of choosing this character class was undoubtedly heavy. At this moment, Hui's grandfather's face appeared in his mind. Although I can't cultivate in the real world, if I choose this character class, wouldn't I be inheriting my grandfather's legacy in another form and walking on the path that he once walked on? Immediately, Hui's gaze became determined. He reached out his hand and pressed confirm. Server announcement. Congratulations to player Hui for creating a new character class, Zombie Forge Master. Obtained Easter egg reward. 500 bound soul coins, untradeable. As soon as the announcement was made, the players in the entire server went into an uproar. Chapter 111. Players had only heard of people changing to a hidden character class by chance. However, creating a new character class was something that the players did not even dare to think about. However, the server announcement made the players realize that there really was such a godly person who succeeded and even received an Easter egg as a reward. All the players opened the game's built-in forum and frantically asked around, wanting to know how this player did it. For a moment, Hui's name was constantly mentioned in the forum. Meanwhile, Hui was still in shock as he stared at the data panel in front of him. Zombie Forge Master, Class Introduction. A Deathwalker who can create new life on the body of a dead soul. A powerful Zombie Forge Master can master various dark abilities, such as forging corpses, controlling corpses, awakening corpses, summoning corpses, assembling corpses, refining corpses, parasitizing corpses, and feeding corpses. Class Advancement. There is no system advancement template. You have to figure out yourself. Class Specialty. The stronger the corpse, the stronger the corpse spirit. Note: the stronger the corpse, the harder it is to refine. Looking at the new panel of his character class, Hui fell into deep thought. From the introduction, this character class seemed to have a lot of potential for development. At the very least, there was one thing that other classes could not compare to, and that was the strength of the corpse spirit was not limited by the user. Even if his level was low, as long as he could obtain the corpse of a powerhouse and successfully refine it, he would be able to kill enemies of a higher level. Could it be that I have to embark on the path of grave robbing, digging up graves, and searching for the corpses of powerhouses? Thinking of this, Hui did not know whether to laugh or cry. His grandfather had spent his entire life in a mass grave, but he had to become a gravedigger in the game. The characteristics of the zombie spirit sect were really strange. However, his childhood experience had made him exceptionally courageous. He was not afraid of evil spirits such as ghouls. Moreover, this was a game world, so he did not have to worry too much. After thinking about his future development, Hui stared at the wreckage on the ground that he had failed to assemble. His eyes revealed a hint of determination. Then, he opened the ancient book again and began to assemble the corpse according to the steps written on it. He accumulated experience through repeated failures and relied on his rich theoretical experience from reading ancient books. After the 32nd time, a thin black fog appeared above the corpse and slowly flowed into the corpse. After the corpse was nourished by the black fog, the gap between the bones automatically adjusted and solidified. Then, a weak ball of soul fire appeared in the skull of the corpse. Success! Hui shouted excitedly. Corpse Warrior Gray, a failed corpse refinement product made from the remains of bone spirits, bone crusher warriors, and crane men. Note: all zombie spirit creatures can absorb Qi to grow over time. The higher the quality of the zombie spirit, the faster the growth rate. Note: the quality of a zombie spirit is divided into 6 stages. From low to high, they are gray, inferior, white, normal, blue, superior, red, rare, purple, epic, and black, legendary. Strength assessment. Physique, level 28. Attack speed, level 2. Attack power, level 2. Corpse spirit enchantment. Non-zombie spirit characteristics. Sluggish. Crude refinement method only retains the original physical strength of the corpse, but is unable to stimulate the true power of the zombie spirit. From the data, it could be seen that the skeleton warrior's forging process was a complete failure. However, Hui was still very happy because he knew that this path was feasible. At the same time, it also aroused his desire to continue exploring this path. Looking at the skeletal warrior lying lifelessly on the ground, Hu Xian had a thought. Upon receiving the order, the skeletal warrior slowly got up from the ground and performed various actions according to Hu He's orders. The feeling of controlling a living creature made Hu He grin uncontrollably. From today onwards, I'm going to be a gravedigger in the game. I'm going to find the corpses of powerhouses and become a powerhouse. Thinking about the powerful strength of the demonic god and Hitorigami, Hui's mind was already imagining that he would be lucky enough to find the corpses of powerful creatures like them in some ruins and refine them into a super strong zombie spirit. From then on, he would be invincible. However, when he thought of this, Hui's face froze. He suddenly remembered something very important. It seemed like after the Christmas battle, Chana's head was still hanging on the city gate. Hui's breathing became heavier and his eyes began to shine. If he could steal it, wouldn't it be the best material to refine a zombie? When the time comes, he could piece the body together and perhaps he could refine an extremely strong zombie spirit. However, he was still a little hesitant, mainly because he was afraid that his actions would be discovered and he would become a sinner in the eyes of other players. After all, Chana's head was a souvenir of the players after they conquered Lili District. It had a symbolic meaning. After a moment of silence, Hui fell into a dilemma. After thinking about it for a while, Hui still did not want to let go of the opportunity to obtain Chana's head. He decided to steal it in the middle of the night when there were fewer people. Could this desire for corpses be an occupational disease passed down from the zombie spirit sect? A guess appeared in Hui's mind. Then, he chuckled and walked towards the mansion of the dead with the skeleton warrior. This gravedigger, who would be despised by millions of people in the future, had officially started his journey of refining zombies. Meanwhile, in the forum, Crayon_Shinchan. Where's the almighty who created the class? Come out and show off your skills. Shuali_the_strongest. I really want to know how he did it. The officials didn't give any explanation, and the almighty doesn't go on the forum. This is so frustrating. Strike_gold. I think our guild needs this kind of technical talent. Cool. Peppa_boar. Zombie Forge Master? A scary guess appeared in my mind. Could it be that this guy got a knack for playing with corpses? That's why he activated the Easter egg in the game. Disgusting. Crayon_Shinchan replied to Peppa_boar. Looking at this class name and seeing your guess, my mind is filled with images. Disgusting. Poverty_trash. Someone go and get the attribute panel of this class. I suspect this guy is a murderer in real life. This is too scary. Laughing emoji. Crayon_Shinchan. Same. Zombie Forge Master, come out now. If you don't light up the attribute panel, I'm going to call the police. Laughing emoji. Chapter 112. The Dragon Capital Stadium was ablaze with lights at night. After 5 days of waiting, the long-awaited 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament finally kicked off. As the lights gradually dimmed, the loyal fans of Battle Online who were sitting in the stadium looked expectant. As a beam of light was cast on the center stage, the 4 members of the ATC band appeared, and the music started slowly. Legends never die, legend never dies. The 4 Cs cheered, casting a legend never dies. The world calls your name, and with eternity as the foundation, carve a legend in yourself. Bathed in blood, compose a song to contend for supremacy, were the stars, and wield the sword to survive. Cold smoke drinks, ice everywhere. Ambition is clear in the bones. The fire invades the clothes, the embers will finally disperse. Pick up your head and fight for yourself. The 4 Cs cheered, casting a legend never dies. Bathed in blood, compose a mysterious song. Sadly, the scars are weary, but the river of bones is nowhere to be seen. Heaven takes everything and makes himself the enemy. Looking back, I was just a young man chasing after dreams. Pick up your head and fight for yourself. The 4 Cs cheered, casting a legend never dies. The world calls your name, and with eternity as the foundation, carve a legend in yourself. This is the theme song of the 2017 LOL World Finals. This is the Chinese translation. In the midst of the music, The lights of the entire Dragon Capital Stadium converged, forming a map of the 100 Fortresses' hegemony above the crowd. The CG in the game appeared in the form of a 3D projection, and the players below cheered at the same time. Battle never dies. Legend never dies. Welcome to the Dragon Capital Stadium to watch the first 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament of Battle Online. The host of the tournament, Fong Ping, appeared in the center of the stage. The surrounding lights were all lit up at this moment, illuminating the sky. The words 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament appeared on the big screen in front of the stage. I believe that the loyal players of Battle Online have been waiting for this day for a long time. Tonight, we will compete for the strongest 100 guilds of the year in this game. The horn of war has been blown. In this battle of blood and fire, who will be the king? Let's turn our attention to the big screen. As Fong Ping's words faded, the words on the big screen faded, and the scene of the Mansion of the Dead in the game appeared. Meanwhile, in the game, all the guilds were eagerly waiting for the event to begin. Server announcement. All guild players who have registered for the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament, please note that the teleportation will begin in 30 seconds. Please be prepared. The announcement caused the entire Mansion of the Dead to erupt into a frenzy. All the players were shouting excitedly. Lu Chai of the Demolition Guild. Brothers, let me say this before the battle. I want to take over the city of Baiki. Do you have the confidence? Hearing the boss's roar, the members of Demolition raised their weapons and roared at the same time. The Myth Guild. Guyu, our target this time is the city of Baiki. We, the Myth Guild, are the strongest guild from the beginning. Great Dragon Guild. Chun Ziyu. Brothers, we're different from the other guilds. We don't have the money or connections, but this time, Chun Ziyu's gaze swept across the guild members in front of him. Swear on Baiki. Wu Guai of the Avengers Alliance. It's time for us to prove ourselves. We're ready for battle, just for today. Let's point our swords at the city of Baiki. Winner takes all. Let's fight to the death. Lu Zhan of the Slayer Alliance raised the wine glass in his hand. For this battle, I'll send you off with wine. We'll gallop unhindered with 30% drunkenness and 70% heroism to build a career. Bottoms up. The guild members heard him and all raised their wine glasses and drained them in one gulp. Yuhan of the Earth-Shaking Guild. Our army is as powerful as a tiger. No hero in the world is a match for us. Baiki, who else but me can do it? All the guild leaders shouted out their goals in the last 30 seconds of the teleportation countdown. Their passion had also infected the audience who were watching the live broadcast outside the stadium. Cheers and shouts were like a tsunami in the Dragon City Stadium. They felt a great sense of pride flowing in their hearts, and they were also looking forward to the epic battle tonight. Who would emerge victorious? Meanwhile, a large number of players were also watching the live broadcast of the competition on Shark's online streaming platform. Even the audience who had never played this game before were infected by the passionate pre-battle mobilization, which made them even more curious about the game Battle Online. The great battle was about to begin. Even Lu Wu did not expect that the city of Baiki would become the target of all the big guilds. These powerful guilds who had built immortal dynasties in other games had the same goal at this moment, which was to be number one. The epic battle slowly began. Chapter 113. The teleportation has begun. All players, please get ready. With the appearance of the game notification, all the players who were already prepared in the Mansion of the Dead turned into white light and disappeared on the spot. In the central area of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony map, all the players who were participating in the battle gathered there as the white light appeared. There were a total of 881 guilds participating in the battle, with a total of 634,320 players. It was a huge scale. In other games at this stage, such a large number of players appearing on a map at the same time would definitely cause some server anomalies and cause a lag. However, Battle Online did not disappoint anyone. Event notice. The 10-minute safety protection countdown has begun. During the safe time, players are not allowed to leave the central area and are not allowed to PK with each other. Please get ready for the upcoming battle. After the game notification sounded, the leaders of the major guilds began to summon their guild members and quickly gathered. While Guyu, Lu Chai, Lu Zhan, and Wu Guoyi gathered their members. They also opened the game's built-in map and began to look for the location of the city of Beiki. In the map of the 100 Fortresses hegemony, the city of Beiki was very conspicuous. It was located in the north of the map and was the only city in the north. There were 33 cities in the east, south, and west respectively. While the safe time was counting down, a white halo appeared on the ground and slowly shrank as time went by. When the white halo shrank to the central area, the game notification appeared again. The safe time is over. The battle officially begins. Charge toward the pinnacle of glory. Warriors, roar. The players roared excitedly. All the guilds began to rush in 4 directions at this moment. Among them, the number of players rushing toward the north was the least. It was incomparable to the number of players in the other 3 directions. However, everyone who was watching the battle knew that the north was the place where all the heroes were competing for supremacy and where the battle was the most intense. There were a total of 38 guilds heading toward the north. Among them, the strongest were undoubtedly the Myth Guild, the Demolition Officers, the Slayer Alliance, the Great Dragon Guild, the Earthshaker Guild, the Avengers, and the Guardian Angels. The other 31 guilds were all roped in before the battle with the purpose of assisting one of the forces to win. While rushing toward the city of Beiki, they were all vigilant of the other guilds, but did not take the initiative to attack. Brothers, speed up. At this time, Lu Chai roared excitedly. Then, a blue halo appeared under his feet and quickly spread to the surroundings. Sea of War. After this ability is activated, all members of the faction receive a 5% movement speed bonus and receive 2 healing points per second for 10 minutes. The range covers a radius of 100 meters. As the blue halo enveloped all the members of the Demolition Guild, the entire guild's advancement speed increased by a notch, slowly pulling away from the other guilds. Everyone, drink your medicine, Guyu shouted in the live chat channel. Upon hearing Guyu's order, all the guild members took out the haste potion that they had purchased from the shop and swallowed it without hesitation. At once, the members of the Myth Guild sped up and dashed forward at a speed faster than the Demolition Guild. So King Rich. Seeing this scene, Chen Ziyu was undoubtedly depressed. After all, compared to the other guilds, his side was the poorest. After running for about 10 minutes, the majestic city of Beiki appeared in everyone's sight. Guyu, who was the first to reach the gate of the city of Beiki, immediately commanded his guild members to launch a fierce attack on the gate. After being attacked, a row of health bar numbers appeared on the gate, for 942381. Although the gate had 5 million health bar, it did not have a defense value. The damage it suffered was all real damage. Under the attack of the Myth Guild, the health bar began to drop rapidly. At this time, the members of the Demolition Guild had also arrived. Lu Chai immediately roared, "Break in and clear them away." Accompanied by Lu Chai's roar, under the leadership of a dozen rune masters, the front row of the Berserker Brigade violently crashed into the Myth Guild's defense line that had been waiting for a long time. Boom! A great battle broke out in an instant. The Demolition Guild and the Myth Guild were old rivals. Now that they met each other, they were even more enraged and started to fight. "Hold on. We only need 5 minutes, and we can take over the city. Son of TCH, heal your teammates." Guyu roared. Upon hearing Guyu's order, Sun Chi leaped up from the ground. His body floated in the air and began to sprinkle green healing light. At this time, an arrow appeared from the front and hit Sun Chi fiercely. This attack immediately interrupted Sun Chi's skill. As his body fell, another burning arrow came from afar and hit Sun Chi. The power of annihilation exploded instantly, and Sun Chi was instantly killed in the air. He turned into a white light and returned to the safety point in the center. "Good job," Wu Guoyi shouted excitedly. He then patted the guild member beside him who was retrieving his longbow. The player who shot the 2 accurate arrows was called Li Lin. He was the 3rd place in the archery inheritance trial. Naturally, he was not Yi Chun of the random arrow technique. Since the Myth Guild had taken the initiative to take over the city and formed a defensive barrier in front of the gate, their common enemy now was the Myth Guild. Brothers, guard the gate with me and help the Myth Guild enter the city. At this time, the 6 guilds and the siege team suddenly turned around and attacked the players at the back, sharing the pressure on the Myth Guild. As the number of people increased, the scale of the battle gradually expanded. It was chaos in front of the gate with spells and skills flying everywhere. Players were constantly beaten to the point of near death. They were killed before they could even drink potions. They turned into white light and returned to the safe zone. Lu Chai said, "All the brothers in the safe zone come to support immediately after you resurrect. The rest of you, gather together and kill a way out. We will definitely take over the city of Beiki." Following Lu Chai's roar, the Demolition Guild began to search for their own group in the chaos with great efficiency. They quickly assembled and launched a charge forward again. The 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament had only just started, and a conflict of such scale had already broken out. The audience watching the live broadcast outside the venue was thrilled. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen, waiting for the moment when the city gate was breached. Chapter 114. If Yichen achieved this result with his real ability, then Mo Lingtian would only be encouraged. However, Yichen was purely a random archer. Mo Lingtian would not be satisfied if he lost to him. Looking at the half of his HP bar at the gate, Gu Yu's eyes became determined. Accompanied by the appearance of a crimson flame on the longbow, the attack ruthlessly smashed into the defenseless Mo Lingtian's body, causing a damage of -68. However, what surprised Mo Lingtian was that Yi Chun did not activate the sliding steps. The arrow made a wrong judgment and shot in front of Yi Chun. 2 burning arrows were shot at the same time. A bloody figure of -110 appeared above Yi Chun's head. His HP bar was reduced by half. An assassin from the Demolition Guild in the distance was hit by him and disappeared in a white light. Seeing this scene, Mo Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. He tilted his body and activated the sliding steps ability. His body slid forward a few meters and easily avoided several fatal attacks. However, at the same time when the arrow was shot, a cunning gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes as he approached. Subsequently, he activated sliding steps and leaned back. He slid 3 meters forward and appeared next to Mo Lingtian. The long-haired man beside Mo Lingtian nodded and took a step forward. Then he slowly raised his dark green Lingyun bow and began to aim at the water fortress behind the siege. As the second place in the archery trial, Mo Lingtian's archery skills were undoubtedly powerful. Accompanied by the shooting of flame arrows, he could kill a fragile water element wizard at the back every time. Glancing at the siege army in front of him, Mo Lingtian's eyes became sharp. He ran through the gap between his guild's players. While running, he raised his longbow from time to time, aimed, and shot arrows. Moreover, Mo Lingtian never thought that he would attack Yi Chun. After all, he was the real archer. Lingtian, shoot at their output points. Try to reduce the pressure on the front. Before Mo Lingtian could finish his words, Yi Chun roared excitedly, "You're so strong." With such a powerful individual ability, everyone could imagine that if Mo Lingtian was born in ancient times, he would definitely be a fierce general on the battlefield. He had actually managed to reduce the number of mage players at the back of the siege team by relying solely on his own ability, while also rendering the assassins helpless. Mo Lingtian's state of mind was greatly affected at this moment. Although he could kill Yi Chun, who was at critical health points, with just 1 arrow, Yi Chun did not give him the chance at all. Yi Chun stuck close to him and displayed his close combat ability. However, at this moment, a burning arrow appeared in front of them. Yi Chun used the longbow as a weapon and smashed it hard on Mo Lingtian's chest. The game notification stunned Mo Lingtian. Wasn't this an ability that only the melee professions in the Cultivation Pavilion practiced? As an archer, why would he practice this? Every time he fired an arrow, he didn't even need to look at the arrow's trajectory before he decisively turned around and changed his shooting position. However, the arrow would always hit the target accurately. As Yi Chen's silhouette continued to approach, Mo Lingtian began to predict Yi Chen's trajectory this time. He calculated the distance of the gliding step and then shot another arrow. The assassin couldn't pinpoint his exact position due to his running attacks, and his powerful one-hit DPS left the spectators in awe. At this time, the distance between the two was still less than 15 meters. When Mo Lingtian raised his longbow, Yi Chen, who was running, also slowly raised his longbow. Amazing. After shooting an arrow, he didn't even look back and then predicted the next safe output point. This god was very low-key before. I admire him. Mo Lingtian, who was in the dizzy state, had yet to figure out what was going on. The back of his head was smashed by Yi Chen, and he fell to the ground. At the same time, he also recovered from the dizzy state. Received skill, dizzy attack, fell into a 1-second dizzy state. The assassins were all shocked. Before they could react, the assassin from a myth guild had also approached them. The instantaneous burst of damage had beheaded them into white light. Mo Lingtian's expression froze, and he glided forward. Seeing Yi Chen running toward him, Mo Lingtian's eyes revealed a trace of contempt. He slowly raised his longbow and aimed at Yi Chen. After charging the arrow, he shot an arrow. In the past, assassins used to be the mage killer in the forum. I want to say that this person is the real mage killer. He's too strong. Get dizzy again. At the same time, when a longbow and arrow collided, Yi Chen's skill was on cooldown. Once again, he stunned Mo Lingtian. Then he grabbed the longbow with both hands and slapped Mo Lingtian's face fiercely, turning him into white light. Seeing that Yi Chen's health was low, Mo Lingtian's mouth revealed a trace of contempt. He pulled out another arrow from his back and put it on. Then he pulled the bow and aimed, ready to kill Yi Chen. This is the real first in the archery trial. He's really awesome. Yi Chen really can't compare with him. Landing slash. Then Mo Lingtian was stunned. He suddenly realized that the arrow did not seem to be aimed at him. It actually fell 3 meters away from him. Mo Lingtian was shocked and angry when he came to his senses. However, Yi Chen once again used a close combat skill to slash at him. He hurriedly glided forward, trying to pull away from Yi Chen. After shooting another arrow, Mo Lingtian directly turned around and walked toward the next shooting point that he had already chosen. Mo Lingtian was not surprised that Yi Chen had dodged his attack. After all, the gliding ability of this class was originally used to avoid skills. Go to hell. Although they had the help of the 5 alliance guilds, the Myth Guild was facing the other 6 guilds who were trying their best to break out of the encirclement. They were still under great pressure. He was extremely proud of his archery skills, but the fact that he had lost to Yi Chen had become a shame in his heart. It often made him feel ashamed. Get lost. Mo Lingtian finally could not stand it anymore. He also raised his longbow and waved it. The eagle eye ability was suddenly activated. Then, he immediately found Yi Chen, who was carrying a longbow and running toward him. Seeing Yi Chen's figure, a trace of haze appeared in Mo Lingtian's eyes. This made Mo Lingtian so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. This was a battle between 2 King archers. Was it really okay to play like this? You slap? Seeing this, Yi Chen, who was far away, decisively glided forward and narrowly dodged the arrow. However, when Mo Lingtian activated the gliding step, Yi Chen also decisively glided forward and approached him again. He grabbed the longbow in his hand and used it as a weapon. Once again, he smashed it toward Mo Lingtian. When practicing archery, the cultivation of one's state of mind was also extremely important. Any change in one's state of mind would affect the accuracy of the arrow. At this time, Yi Chen was undoubtedly depressed. It was always sad to lose due to fate. Seeing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Mo Lingtian's eyes. However, there was no fluctuation in his heart. Chapter 115. After killing Mo Lingtian, a smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. Changing to a sun-chasing archer once made him very depressed. Because of this, he had trained hard in archery and did not want to leave it to fate. However, he did not have the talent in this area. No matter how much he practiced, the effect was weak. At the end of his rope, Yi Chun, who had almost given up on himself, decided to cultivate close-range combat under Yi Shuerer's guidance. With the support of the sun-chasing power and the agile movement technique of the sliding steps, as well as the close-range combat techniques that did not require profession in the cultivation pavilion, he managed to master some skills. In this aspect, Yi Chun showed his talent and found that he was very suitable to use a bow for close combat. Killing Mo Ling Tian just now made Yi Chun know that he was right to take this path. An archer should F*King fight in close combat, and a close combat archer was the best. Yi Chun's performance also made everyone watching the game dumbfounded. Before this, the bullet screen was filled with comments like Mo Ling Tian was awesome, but now everyone was completely dumbfounded. Such a cool fighting style. An archer who did not need arrows, but relied on the bow to hit the opponent's face, had destroyed the worldview of many players. Sure enough, the first place is the first place. When did your brother Chun let you down? A close combat archer is awesome. I finally found out that Yi Chun really can't be judged by the secular standards. He will always surprise you. It's so exciting. A close combat archer is awesome. Brother Chin's cool tricks are endless. The #1 talent of the year must belong to you. What a breathtaking operation. Such a skilled close combat technique. I want to know what he has experienced. Desperate Yi Chun did not come out of nowhere. Several actual battles have proven everything. I guess Yi Chun may be the legendary son of luck. Laughing emoji. In the Shark live streaming platform outside the arena, a lot of praises for Yi Chun flashed across the bullet screen. At the resurrection point, Mo Ling Tian's eyes were dull. This battle had given him a huge blow. He could not believe that he had attacked Yi Chun in a direct confrontation. How is this possible? This failure made Mo Ling Tian fall into isolation again. The siege war was still going on. The entire city of Beiki was filled with battle cries. The pressure on the Myth Guild was increasing, and more than half of them were dead or injured. At this moment, there was a loud noise at the city gate, and the entire city gate was shattered. Upon seeing this, Gu Yu's face was filled with ecstasy. Warriors, continue to hold on. The rest of you, enter the city and seize the flag. Quick, everyone, enter the city and seize the flag. Wu Guai, Lu Chai, and the other presidents also shouted anxiously. Without the support of the back line, the defense line of the warriors of the Myth Guild was instantly broken. Tens of thousands of players rushed toward the city in a frenzy, trying to stop the Myth Guild from seizing the flag. At this moment, a white flag was erected in the center of the city of Beiki. The people of the Myths had arrived first and launched an attack on the flag. This flag didn't have a health bar, so it shattered under the bombardment of spells. At this time, a game prompt appeared. Congratulations to the Myth Guild for occupying the city of Beiki and obtaining 5 minutes of safety protection. The guild resurrection point has been changed to the city of Beiki. Meanwhile, the members of other guilds who had just entered the city of Beiki were all teleported to the city gate. The broken city gate was restored to its original state. At this time, a selection panel appeared in front of Guyu. Please select a flag to represent your guild. In front of Guyu, the options for hundreds of flags appeared. After glancing at them, Guyu locked his gaze on a golden proud dragon flag and clicked confirm. In the eyes of the guild players outside, a golden flag was slowly rising from the city of Beiki with the word myth appearing on it. F***CK. Lu Chai shouted gloomily. Looking at the countdown on the city gate, they knew that they could only wait for the next round of attack. Apart from the powerful strength of the Myth Guild, another important reason for being able to directly attack the city of Beiki this time was that they had 6 allied guilds messing up the situation, making it extremely difficult for them to break through the siege. However, they all knew that the Myth Guild wouldn't have it easy when they were defending the city. After all, the Myth Guild had the advantage of being the first to arrive in the battle in front of the city gate. They hit at the city gate and formed a very small defensive circle. The collective attack couldn't break through for a while. However, when they entered the empty city of Beiki, they were confident that they could drive the Myth Guild out in one go. Brothers, let's clear out these 6 guilds first. At this moment, Wu Guai suddenly spoke. Then, all the guild members changed their direction and attacked the guild that had just helped the Myth Guild to defend the city. Wu Gui's words also woke Chun Ziyu, Lu Chai, and the others up. They also led their guild members and allied forces to attack the 6 guilds to prevent them from becoming an obstacle in the next siege. During the siege protection period, these 6 guilds suddenly became the target of public criticism and were crazily slaughtered by the other guilds. Congratulations to the Berserk Guild for occupying the Extreme City. Congratulations to the Flying Guild for occupying the Changwu City. Congratulations to the World Guild for occupying the Looting City. Game notifications appeared one after another. The killing in the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament was getting more and more intense. There were guilds successfully occupying the city one after another. The entire safe zone was constantly flashing with white light. Several players were resurrected every second. After the protection period was over, they once again threw themselves into the hegemony battle. This epic hegemony battle made the audience outside the arena exclaim in excitement. Many low-key gurus entered the audience's sight one after another. All kinds of manipulations emerged one after another. There was even a Berserk Guild that was usually not famous. However, they actually withstood the joint obstruction of the other 4 guilds and forced their way into the Extreme City. They won the first city with an absolute advantage. On the other hand, the number of viewers on the Char platform had also increased continuously from the initial 2 million. After an hour of the event, the number of viewers was approaching 10 million, but it was still rising rapidly. Many people were destined to have a sleepless night. Their eyes were focused on the battlefield. Chapter 116. During the 5th hour of the hegemony contest, a statistical chart was shown on the big screen. Everyone watching the hegemony contest exclaimed when they saw the data. According to the statistics, the total number of players who died in the hegemony tournament map had reached a terrifying figure of more than 32 million times. 35,212 weapons were damaged, and 34,212 pieces of armor were damaged. The cost of repairing the equipment in the shop alone had reached a terrifying 500,000 soul coins, and the various types of potions that had been consumed were also uncountable. The flags of the 100 cities have been raised more than 3,000 times. On average, the flags of the 100 cities would be replaced several times every hour. The Celestial Dragon City in the west had been replaced 10 times in just an hour. The battle could be described as exciting, making the blood of the audience watching the hegemony contest boil. Such an earth-shattering epic battle had entered the craziest stage in the last hour. The intensity of the entire battlefield kept increasing. At the end, all the guilds who had yet to conquer the cities went crazy. In the city of Baki's hegemony contest, the owner of the city had changed several times. Even the powerful Myth Guild could only hold on for less than 20 minutes before the city was conquered. In the city of Baki's hegemony contest, other than the powerful Myth Guild, the Demolition Guild was undoubtedly the most eye-catching guild. The Demolition Guild showed amazing cohesion in this battle, especially the personal commanding ability of their guild leader, Lu Chai. They managed to defend the city of Baki for a full half an hour after they succeeded in conquering the city, setting a new record for defending a city. They even relied on the cooperation of their guild members to conquer the city of Baki 3 times, becoming the guild with the longest flag-raising time in the city of Baki. Up until now, many guilds were fighting with all their might. The battle could be described as exciting. In the last hour, the guild defending the city was still the Myth Guild. As the city gate was breached, a large number of members from other guilds swarmed in, madly charging toward the central city flag. Everyone, don't worry about wasting potions. Maintain your HP and defend the city of Baki. As long as we hold on, we'll be number 1. Guyu's roar resounded in the live chat channel. If they lost the city of Baki again, even Guyu could not guarantee that they could conquer the city again under the siege of the other guilds. Therefore, in Guyu's opinion, this was their last chance. In the eyes of the other guilds, this siege was their last chance. Their attacks became even more ferocious. Tens of thousands of spells collided in the city of Baki, destroying all the surrounding buildings. Waves after waves of attacks surged in. On the other hand, the Myth Guild, who was defending the city, formed circles of defense around the flag and resisted the invading enemies with great difficulty. This collective attack was different from before. While they were attacking the Myth Guild, they had to observe every move of the other guilds. After all, there was only one city flag. The last chance must not be given to others. Lu Chai commanded, "Everyone, get into a dagger formation. With me as the tip of the dagger, we'll radiate backward and charge in." Following Lu Chai's roar, the guild members who had a tacit understanding of each other quickly gathered behind Lu Chai, forming an attack line that was as sharp as a knife. The two sides of the formation were all warrior-type professions who could resist and fight. The assassins were all at the back, while the mages were all protected in the middle. They were like a sharp knife that was stabbed into the Myth Guild's defense line. At this time, the Sea of War ability was activated. With the blessing of healing and acceleration abilities, the Demolition Guild erupted with unparalleled power. They tore a hole in the Myth Guild's defense line and launched an attack on the city flag. This attack was too sudden. Guyu, who was defending against the enemy on the other side, did not expect it at all. Looking at the Demolition Guild that was approaching the city flag, Guyu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Just when the Demolition Guild was about to reach the city flag, the Heavenly Slayer Alliance, led by Lu Zhan, tore the Myth Guild's defense line from the side and crashed into the Demolition Guild. Even Guyu did not expect that the Heavenly Slayer Alliance would help him out of the predicament. There were less than 30 minutes left. At this critical moment, Lu Zhan knew that if Lu Chai really succeeded in seizing the city flag, Lu Chai would most likely be the final winner in addition to the 5 minutes of protection. Hence, he had to stop him. At this time, the other few defense lines were also torn apart. Wu Guai, Yi Shui and the others had also charged into the central area. The final battle broke out among the 6 guilds. This time, there were no allies. Everywhere they could see were hostile guilds. As long as any guild was close to the city flag, they would instantly be targeted by the other guilds. The battle was getting more and more intense. "Boss Chai, I'll help you clear the way. Go and seize the flag." As Qi Ming's voice fell, he slammed the staff in his hand onto the ground. A few ghosts emerged from the ground and formed a whirlwind of ghosts with a wave of Qi Ming's hand. They swept forward abruptly and squeezed a path through the crowd. "Thank you." Lu Chai turned around and nodded at Qi Ming solemnly. After that, the gemstones on his body lit up at the same time, and his body pounced forward like a ferocious tiger. "I'm here. Who dares to pass?" A figure suddenly appeared, and a crimson spiritual sword slashed down violently, forcing Lu Chai to retreat. Ao Jian's figure also appeared at this time. The Myth Guild had provided Ao Jian with a large number of materials to support the spiritual sword. Hence, in the final battle, this swordsmanship master had finally appeared. "Your opponent is me." Qi Ming's figure stood in front of Ao Jian, who was about to kill Lu Chai. "It's you." Ao Jian's pupil shrank. "Of course it's me." Qi Ming chuckled. "Loser, victory and defeat are unpredictable. You might not be able to defeat me this time. We'll know once we try." Ao Jian waved his left hand after he finished speaking. Another purple, long sword shot out from his back, and he held it in his left hand. At the same time, Qi Ming also activated his ghost beast power. His body grew taller, and the muscles on his arms were like dragons. His skin was covered in black, making him look like a black devil statue. The two cultivators once again engaged in a head-on confrontation. Chapter 117. This time, Qi Ming had also received the inheritance. Naturally, he was not afraid of Ao Jian. He slammed the staff in his hand again, and the ghost that emerged quickly entangled Ao Jian. Seeing the ghost coming, Ao Jian waved the red sword in his hand forward, and his sword ray swept out, killing the ghosts. Then, his figure flashed, and he went toward Qi Ming. Bang! Qi Ming remained calm in the face of Ao Jian's attack. His right fist suddenly smashed down and collided with Ao Jian. With the blessing of double attributes, Qi Ming's punch crushed Ao Jian in terms of strength and forced him to retreat. Then he stomped his staff on the ground again and several ghosts appeared and were sucked into his mouth at the same time. Dark red lines appeared on the surface of his body, and his physique was once again strengthened. This time, even Ao Jian had realized that Qi Ming was no longer the fragile wizard from before. Instead, he was an opponent worthy of his full strength. While Ao Jian and Qi Ming were fighting, Lu Chai's figure flashed again, and he launched an attack toward the city flag. In order to cover Lu Chai's capture of the city flag, the remaining assassins of the guild all activated the shadow steps and followed behind him to block the attacks along the way. The Demolition Guild's tactic was undoubtedly successful. By abandoning all combat power and leaving only the assault team, they once again passed the battle line and launched the final attack toward the city flag. Lu Chai, you can't take over the city of Beiki. A burning flame suddenly appeared in the central area, and Guyu's figure appeared in front of the city flag. A horn slowly extended from Guyu's forehead, and his figure grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a 3-meter-tall red giant. At this last stage, Guyu did not hold back anymore and directly displayed the evil body. With the inheritance ability, his strength was greatly enhanced. "Break!" Lu Chai roared. The ruby on his body shone with a dazzling brilliance, and he used all his strength to smash Guyu in front of the city flag. He knew that as long as he could defeat Guyu, he would be the winner tonight. Roar! Guyu also roared at the same time and punched Lu Chai's fist. Both figures retreated at the same time. With the strengthening of the evil body, Guyu's strength was obviously more than one level higher than Lu Chai's. He had the upper hand in this punch and blasted Lu Chai a few meters back. At this moment, a bloody mist suddenly rose around them. The blood on the ground automatically floated and quickly flowed into Guyu's body. Guyu slowly straightened his body and walked toward the city flag again. He smiled evilly. "Lu Chai, you can't defeat me. I can defeat you." Lu Chai steadied himself and roared as he launched another attack. In order to help their boss capture the flag, the remaining assassin players followed closely behind him and launched their final attack. "I said you can't defeat me." With Guyu roar, the bloody flame, Lu blood, and the blood rose. Flame, blood goo. Guyu, the blood goo. Before Gu, the Guyu, the assassin's clan, and Chun. Lu Ao Yang. When the two fists collided again, Lu Chai was blasted away again. His HP was already more than half. You, Ao. Dragon Ming, he dragon. Ao King Tho Jian. At this time, there was not much time left. Now that everyone on the periphery was fighting on their own, it had become easier for them to restrain and defend each other. The only person who could break through the tangled battle line was Lu Chai. He had a premonition that he was going to succeed. Lu Chai stood up again and looked at Guyu. His eyes were filled with nostalgia. He did not know how long it had been since he met an opponent who could excite him. He smiled at Guyu, who was full of confidence. "Guyu, I admit that you're strong. However, you can't fight one-on-one." "Oh." Guyu was surprised. "Have you heard of thunder?" Lu Chai shook his numb right hand and walked toward Guyu. "Thunder? I've never heard of it." Guyu smiled faintly. He lifted his leg and stomped on the ground. Then, he dashed toward Lu Chai. However, to Guyu's surprise, Lu Chai did not fight him head-on. Instead, he twisted his upper body to the side and dodged his heavy punch. Weak point, left lower abdomen. As Lu Chai roared, the ruby on his body flashed, and he punched Guyu's abdomen with an uppercut. The punch caught Guyu off guard, and he staggered a few steps back. "Umph." Guyu snorted as he thought it was his mistake. He approached Lu Chai again. Weak point, right side defense. Lu Chai leaped to the left with his agile feet. He swung his right fist and hit Guyu's face hard, knocking him to the ground. Guyu did not believe it. He turned over and stood up. The muscles on his body contracted as he roared and launched another attack. However, he did not expect Lu Chai to always predict his punches and counterattack at the critical moment. Looking at Lu Chai pacing back and forth on the same spot and his fierce punches, Guyu suddenly thought of someone. "You said you're thunder." Lu Chai nodded. "You're the first person to know this secret in this game. Thunder, the king who once ruled an era of combat. Guyu's heart was in turmoil when he heard Lu Chai's admission. What other tricks do you have? Show them to me. You're no match for me one-on-one. Lu Chai raised his fist and got into a fighting stance. Guyu did not refute this time. Instead, he nodded his head solemnly. Then, his eyes lit up, and he turned his head to look at Lu Chai. Guyu's evil eye stare was his final killer move, his strongest ability. Thunder was caught off guard and was hit instantly. At this moment, he was stunned on the spot. Guyu quickly approached Lu Chai and punched him hard in the face, sending him flying. The situation of the battle was changing rapidly. There were only 15 minutes left. At the final stage, the hearts of the audience went through a roller coaster ride. Just when they thought Guyu would win, Lu Chai displayed his strong combat ability and suppressed Guyu. However, at the last moment, Lu Chai was suddenly restrained, giving Guyu another chance to counterattack. Looking at Lu Chai, who was still lying on the ground after being punched, everyone in the audience, including Lu Wu and Bei Li, thought that the Myth Guild was about to succeed in defending the city and obtain the final victory. At this moment, Lu Chai was lying on the ground. His mind was in a mess, and all kinds of negative emotions emerged. Memories that made him angry, sad, and desperate began to appear in front of him. His body trembled slightly, but his fists were gradually clenched. Chapter 118. The old man's words awakened Lu Chai, who was grief-stricken. He remembered that the old man once said that he wanted to see Lu Chai become the champion of the national fighting competition one day. However, what surprised them even more was that the roaring heroic spirit suddenly stopped trembling when it was about to leave. Don't tell me that all your previous matches were rigged. However, the doctor stuffed a note into his hand and told him that this was the last thing the old man wanted to say to him. Lu Chai rushed home like a madman, but when he saw the old man with white hair, he had already left. Lu Chai's favorite thing to do in school was to be laughed at and then beat the person who laughed at him. In the artifact space, a heroic spirit was constantly trembling and roaring in the spirit summoning hall. Finally, under everyone's expectations, this genius from the amateur group stepped into the professional fighting ring. I promised him that I won't lose. Under the gaze of the evil eye, many past memories that made him sad, angry, and desperate appeared in Lu Chai's mind. These memories kept playing in his mind like a slideshow. His childhood was undoubtedly dark. He was often caught and sent to the juvenile detention center. He was the scum of society in everyone's eyes. In the following days, Lu Chai trained during the day and talked to the old man at night, learning how to behave. In the second match, Lu Chai stepped into the ring with great psychological pressure. As expected, he was defeated again. However, one day, he met an old man who changed his fate. Without the old man by his side, Lu Chai had no one to guide him and was deeply immersed in this colorful world. At that time, Lu Chai had not trained for 5 months, and his body quality had seriously declined. However, he was full of confidence and even indulged himself before the match. It feels that its inheritance is not worthy of him. His willpower and the heart of a powerhouse have surpassed the heroic spirit itself, Bailey said with a solemn expression. At that time, Lu Chai thought that this was the end of his life, living a mediocre life. His glory days began. In the next 3 years, Lu Chai won 3 gold medals in the amateur tournament of the Grappling Master. He was also given the name Thunder because of his ferocious punching technique, which meant that he could defeat his opponent as fast as lightning. When he returned home that time, he thought the old man would be very angry, but the old man patted him on the shoulder kindly. A combat genius from the amateur group who lost 4 times in a row. This time, Lu Chai was less pompous and less aggressive, but more determined. The young Lu Chai raised his head and looked at the old man with a puzzled gaze. In Lu Chai's opinion, other than being fierce and aggressive, there was nothing good about him. Lu Wu and Bei Li were horrified. To Lu Chai's surprise, the old man did not choose to call the police. Instead, he gestured for Lu Chai to calm down and took the initiative to hand over the food on the shelf. Ha ha! Thunder, the future king of combat, you really know how to joke. What everyone, including the members of the Demolition Guild, did not know was that their leader, Lu Chai, was actually the most famous combat genius in Chi Dragon. He was the uncrowned king who had once ruled the combat world during his prime, Thunder. At the age of 15, after 3 years of hard training, Lu Chai signed up for the amateur combat competition with the support of the old man. However, this scene was not witnessed by the old man, which was also Lu Chai's lifelong regret. He overcame all obstacles along the way and defeated countless veteran fighters who had been famous for a long time. After that, he became the guardian of the Golden Combat Ring for 8 years and was the uncrowned king of the combat world. Thunder's name was also known throughout the country and the world because of this. I won't be defeated again. Lu Chai's hands bled from the abrasion, forming calluses, and continued to bleed. Lu Chai numbed the pain in his heart with high-intensity training. At this time, the only goal in his heart was to fulfill the last promise that he had made to his father. It was raining when he just came out of the juvenile detention center. Hungry, he went to a supermarket to steal, but he was discovered because he accidentally bumped into the shelf and made a sound. It was also this time that Lu Chai proved to the world that he was the real combat genius and the future king of the combat world. Lu Chai, who was lying on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes and dodged Guyu's punch. Later, Lu Chai found out that the old man used to be a combat expert when he was young and retired due to injuries. His biggest regret was that he could no longer go on the combat stage. However, reality gave him a hard slap in the face. He was defeated in the first match, and it was a crushing defeat. Fourth match, defeat third match. Defeat his fierce punching skills made him stand out in the amateur group and became a young genius in the eyes of others. After that, the old man treated Lu Chai like his own son. Lu Chai, who was originally quiet, also became more cheerful after constant contact with the old man. Finally, he was persuaded to drop out of school after the joint appeal of many parents. Even though the old man begged again and again, the result could not be changed. The public was in an uproar, and there was a lot of negative news about him in the media reports. This tortured Lu Chai to the point that he almost couldn't recover from the setback. Lu Chai's talent began to show at that time. In the eyes of the old man, he was a natural combat genius. He constantly increased the intensity of his training, broke through his limits, and played his strengths. Every day, he punched the sandbag, again and again, countless times. Since then, the king had returned. This was the first time in his life that he cried. At this time, Lu Chai suddenly felt that he no longer had any nostalgia for this world. Become a combat expert. I'll teach you, the old man said with a smile. What's wrong? Lu Wu was full of doubts. The punch hit the old man, causing him to cover his chest and take a few steps back. With the increase of his fame, Lu Chai gradually became rich. He was also attracted by this extravagant world and gradually fell into depravity. However, the bad news did not stop there. A few days later, Lu Chai received news that the old man had contracted an illness and was being treated. After the old man was buried, Lu Chai kowtowed to the old man's tombstone and said, Lu Chai could still clearly remember the old man's trembling appearance when he went in and out of the principal's office. Facing the old man who came to check on him, Lu Chai's eyes were fierce. He turned around and punched the old man. Lu Chai had been very strong since he was young. He could defeat several people of his age. The tough environment he grew up in had also shaped his strong character. In the face of tough training, he showed maturity that was not supposed to be present at his age. At this time, Lu Chai had already retired. The unstoppable spirit of the past had long been restrained. However, at this moment, under the stimulation of the evil eye stare, memories emerged. The most ferocious beast in the combat world had awakened again. They did not expect Lu Chai to resonate with the heroic spirit at this moment. Do you remember what I said? You also have a talent that others do not have. Losing is not scary. What is scary is not having the determination to win again. Do you still remember what you promised me? The appearance of the old man was like a ray of light in the dark night, illuminating Lu Chai, who was curled up in the darkness. That was the first time Lu Chai met the old man. After understanding Lu Chai's experience, the old man said something that Lu Chai could not forget until now. A year later, Lu Chai, who had once again passed the amateur category, stood in the ring of the professional category again. In the 5th round, Lu Chai was terminated before he could even fight. His professional career had ended. "I'll adopt you." Until the end, he did not get to see his father for the last time. Lu Chai opened the note with a sad heart. However, the environment Lu Chai grew up in had caused him to have an inferiority complex. Even though he went to school, he still could not fit in. Young Lu Chai's parents abandoned him. Lu Chai, who was neglected, was very rebellious at that time. He mingled with other children of his age on the streets, often fighting and stealing. He clearly remembered the mockery of others at that time. Don't look down on yourself. You also have a specialty that others don't. Even more so, no one knew the trials and tribulations that Thunder had experienced on its path of growth. This was the last promise he made to his father and life mentor. Chapter 119. Bei Li's words stunned Lu Wu on the spot. Lu Chai, with his mortal willpower, had made the Ghost General and Ghost King level Valiant Spirit in the Valiant Spirit Palace feel inferior to him. He even gave up the blessing of the power of inheritance. How terrifying was his willpower? There are two kinds of powerhouses. The first kind is powerful, but they don't have the mentality of a powerhouse. The other kind has the heart of a powerhouse. These kinds of powerhouses have an undefeatable will to fight no matter how powerful they are. He belongs to the second kind. He is a real powerhouse. There are thousands of ways to have powerful strength, but the heart of a powerhouse cannot be forged overnight. Woo, this is a real powerhouse. Congratulations. Bailey turned around and looked at Lu Wu with a smile. Seeing that Lu Chai had resisted his demonic god's stare and avoided his killing blow, Gu Yu was stunned. This move could be said to be tried and tested, and it had never failed before. But at this critical moment, it actually failed. Gu Yu had no idea how Lu Chai did it. It was the power of the demonic god. Lu Chai stood up slowly and looked at Gu Yu with a fierce gaze. He was like a tiger that was about to pounce on its prey. Gu Yu was shocked. Facing Lu Chai, who had gotten rid of the demonic god's stare, Gu Yu knew that he was no match for him. He immediately called for help in the guild channel. Dozens of guild members who were fighting immediately retreated and headed toward the city flag. Facing the increasing number of opponents, Lu Chai's lips curled into a hideous smile. His blood was boiling at this moment. This made him reminisce about the past. He enjoyed the thrill of battle. At this moment, the game notification sounded. The hidden attribute of willpower has been greatly increased. The title Sacrifice ability has been activated. Title Sacrifice, the last gift of the sea god. After this ability is activated, the player can choose to sacrifice a tribute to receive the blessing of the sea god. The sacrificial items available are soul coins, equipment, health points, experience points level. Note, the sacrificial items cannot be returned. Lu Chai squatted down slightly and ignored the game notification. Instead, he waved at Gu Yu and the others who were surrounding him. Kill! Gu Yu and the others immediately attacked Lu Chai. At this moment, Lu Chai demonstrated the powerful strength of the king of combat. Stagger step, side slide step, yield step, uppercut punch, swing punch, straight punch, and forward punch. He fought against more than 30 people single-handedly and had an obvious advantage. The audience outside the arena was in an uproar when they saw this scene. Everyone was shocked by Lu Chai's terrifying combat skills. A deafening roar erupted from the scene. This footwork, this fist technique, is he a thunderbolt? Is it lightning? Familiar fist techniques, familiar footwork, and his punches are as fast as lightning. I'm his loyal fan, and I can't be wrong. He's definitely the god of thunder. My eyes are brimming with tears. I didn't expect to see the great god of thunder again in my lifetime. My heart is filled with gratitude. If this isn't Thunderbolt, I'm eating XX on a live broadcast. I've been watching his fights for 8 years and have always been his loyal fan. If I can't even recognize him, I can go and die. There was an uproar outside the arena. Lu Chai's body movement and fist technique were too iconic, so they were quickly recognized by the audience outside the arena. The atmosphere of the entire arena was once again pushed to a climax. Event notification. Countdown to the last 10 minutes of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament begins. The theme song sounded again in the arena, and the entire 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament entered the final stage. Finally, the defense line of the Myth Guild was broken at this moment, and all the guilds launched their final charge toward the fortress flag. Faced with an endless stream of enemies, Lu Chai turned his body sideways to avoid the collision of a rune master and looked at the game notification that was still on the interface. Sacrifice all equipment. Sacrifice all soul coins. Sacrifice all levels. Boom! A huge blue wave descended from the sky and smashed into the place where Lu Chai was. It wrapped around him and formed a rapidly spinning blue water ball. Inside the blue water ball, Lu Chai's 4 limbs began to extend and solidify into a blue energy body. Roar! Accompanied by a roar, the water ball was smashed apart, revealing Lu Chai, who was in the state of Sea God's blessing. Lu Chai's 5-meter-tall body was composed of translucent blue energy, and behind him was a Sea God scepter that was shining with a bright blue light. At this moment, Lu Chai's appearance shocked everyone in the arena. Roar! Lu Chai's figure stood in front of the fortress flag, looking down at the front. Kill! In the final battle, no one would retreat. Everyone rushed toward Lu Chai, who was the only one blocking the way. Guyu and the others leaped up at the same time and attacked Lu Chai. Bang! 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 The giant blue fist danced continuously, and one by one, the figures were smashed and flew backward. At this moment, Lu Chai had single-handedly blocked the onslaught of 10,000 people, demonstrating his unparalleled strength. Looking at the endless and densely packed group of players, Lu Chai roared again. Then, the Sea God scepter on his back shook and appeared in his palm in an instant. At this moment, Lu Chai held the scepter and slammed it on the ground. Suddenly, a giant wave appeared out of nowhere behind him and slammed forward. The giant wave swept across, and a large number of players were pushed back. Lu Chai was like a god of war at this moment, and he had become an insurmountable mountain for the players. Lu Chai had put everything on the line for this battle, and the price of sacrifice was undoubtedly huge. However, he had no regrets, because he knew that he could win, because he was Thunder. At the final stage of the battle, no one expected that Lu Chai would be the one to resist the joint attack of 6 guilds. However, no matter how many spells they used, Lu Chai remained unmoved. Under the blessing of the Sea God, Lu Chai was not afraid of any attack. Moreover, every time he attacked, he could always kill a large number of players and turn them into white light. At this moment, Lu Chai was like a dungeon boss, and the attacking players had no way to deal with him. This scene was destined to become a classic. As the countdown of the last 5 minutes began, Lu Chai waved the scepter forward. The waves surged and swept forward again. Lu Chai slowly turned around and looked at the Beiki city flag behind him with a smile at the corner of his mouth. After the city flag was seized, all the players in the city turned into white light and were teleported to the city gate. Looking at the countdown at the city gate and the Demolition Guild's flag fluttering in the wind, Guyu, Wu Wei, Lu Zhan, and the others were stunned on the spot. They knew that they had lost. At this moment, there was a deafening roar outside the arena, and everyone began to shout Thunder's name. The atmosphere of the scene reached its peak. All the audience stood up and shouted for the former king. This battle was just like before. Lu Chai had once again conquered everyone with his strength as a powerhouse. The lights at the scene were dazzling, and everyone was waving their hands to vent the excitement in their hearts amidst the theme song. Thunder, thunder, thunder. The audience's cheers resounded throughout the stadium. On the live streaming platform, the audience's bullet screen even covered the entire screen. There were even a large number of players who shouted the slogan, "I want to join the Demolition Guild." In an instant, Lu Chai had gained countless fans with his charm. As the bell rang to signal the end of the countdown, hundreds of cities returned to their respective masters. A supreme throne appeared in the sky above the city of Beiki. Server announcement: congratulations to the Demolition Guild for becoming the champion of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament and owning the Kingdom of Beiki. Chapter 120. Top 10 battle footage of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament. On the center stage of the Dragon City Stadium, the host, Fong Ping, appeared. Fong Ping's news caused an uproar among the players. Even Gu Yu was disappointed, but he was convinced by Lu Chai's performance. Many of them might not be able to participate in the Guild Hegemony tournament, but the individual competition was different. It was a real carnival for all the players. The release of this news had given the players great expectations. The golden page flipped open slowly. The videos of Lu Chai leading his guild to capture the city and capturing the city flag with his own strength were played quickly on the page. There was a line of words below. With the end of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament, the battle history book once again appeared in the game. These wonderful videos showed the intensity and passion of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament, pushing the atmosphere of the scene to a climax. The potions consumed by the players during the battle and the cost of repairing their equipment in the shop far exceeded the amount of soul coins that Lu Wu was prepared to pay. Moreover, many players had to purchase new equipment from the shop due to their damaged equipment. A large amount of soul coins flowed back again. Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. The sixth place is from the city of Beiki again. It's the Demolition Guild's defense video. They defended the city for 30 minutes and resisted the attacks of the 6 guilds. The Demolition Guild's performance in this battle is like a godsend. This video could be said to be a textbook teaching of PK skills. If it was not for Lu Chai's godlike performance at the end, this video would definitely be the top one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to vote for the top 10 best performances of the match. You can find a voting button next to your seat and vote for your favorite battle video. The audience watching the live broadcast from outside can also vote for their favorite video on the platform. After the top 10 videos were played, the Hegemony tournament officially came to an end. At the end, Fong Ping revealed a piece of news to the audience. According to Bailey's description, the heart of the powerhouse was a hidden talent that even Ghost Generals and Ghost Kings like Chan Na and the Rock Ghost King did not possess. After about half an hour of waiting, the ranking list on the big screen was finally generated. Accompanied by the familiar background music of the top ranking, "We are electric," the words "Number 1" flashed across. The third most outstanding player of the match is still from the direction of the city of Beiki. The sun-chasing archer, Yi Chun, has shown us with his skillful close combat that an archer's close combat skill can be so amazing that it's impossible to guard against it. January 25th, 2319, the first season of the 100 Fortresses Hegemony. Under the leadership of President Lu Chai, the Demolition Guild fought a bloody battle and finally seized the city of Beiki. They obtained the ownership of the city. This battle will be recorded in the annals of history for future generations to admire. It could only be said that he had unintentionally planted a willow tree that had grown into a shade. Next up is our 5th place. In the battle for Limit City, the Berserk Guild had a brilliant performance. They taught their enemies a good lesson on how to defeat the many despite being outnumbered. As the commentator spoke, Yi Chen displayed his close combat skills on the big screen once again. The audience once again witnessed Yi Chen's terrifying close combat dominance in a desperate situation. Lu Wu was prepared to spend a lot of soul coins as a contribution to the event. However, he did not expect that after the 6-hour battle, the number of soul coins in his bank would increase by almost 1 million. Especially Lu Chai, who had the extremely rare heart of a powerhouse. This was Lu Wu's biggest surprise. As the commentator spoke, the players once again replayed the exciting scene of Lu Chai single-handedly fighting against the combined attack of the 6 major guilds. He held on for the last 5 minutes, changed his fate, and seized the city of Beiki. Then, a video clip of the battle appeared on the big screen for the players to vote for. Each audience member had 3 votes in their hands. The second most outstanding player of the match is from the direction of the city of Beiki. The 2 players, Ao Jian and Qi Ming, have shown us what is called extreme control. All of their attacks and defenses are predictive. Such a terrifying individual ability is really terrifying everyone. The first place for the best video of the match belongs to the brilliant performance of the president of the Demolition Guild, Lu Chai, in the battle for the city of Beiki. At the end of the video, Ao Jian combined his 9 swords into one and launched a fatal blow. Qiming also activated self-destruct at the same time. The two players turned into white light and disappeared on the spot at the same time. In the end, it was a tie. This video could be said to be recognized as the best video of the match by all the audience. At that moment, Liu Chai was like a god descending to the world, looking down on the heroes and capturing the hearts of the audience. In the video, Ao Jian's attack and Qiming's defense were endless. One by one, the videos flashed across the big screen, once again igniting the passion of the audience. At this moment, Lu Wu had a strange expression on his face. The fourth most outstanding player of the match is from the direction of the city of Beiki, where the battle was the most intense. Mo Lingtian, who is also a sun-chasing archer, has shown us what a real wizard killer is. One arrow, one life. The Reaper at the back of the battlefield should be like Mo Lingtian. According to Bailey, Liu Chai's future potential was limitless because he would never lose himself in power. He would always maintain the mentality of a powerhouse. The 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament has come to a successful end. Thank you to all the participating guilds for your wonderful performance. Let's meet again in the personal competition. After the voting officially started, a data chart appeared on the screen. Among them, Liu Chai's personal performance video at the end was rising at a speed that was far faster than other battle videos. In just a moment, he had jumped to the first place and pulled a huge distance away from the second place. In the video, Mo Lingtian turned around confidently every time he shot an arrow. The arrows he shot hit the enemy's backline precisely like navigation, killing them easily. He even played the assassin who was advancing in the dark in the palm of his hand. It could be said that his performance was extremely outstanding. In the video, the Rampage Guild relied on the strength of a single guild and relied on tactical arrangements to forcefully tear an opening in the encirclement of several guilds and forcefully entered the extreme city. After watching the entire video, many players were dumbfounded. This kind of amazing battle technique had completely shocked all the players who were watching. The main purpose of this battle was to promote the game, and the effect was extremely remarkable. At the same time when the live broadcast ended, the number of downloads of Battle Online on Team 173 increased rapidly. The artifact indicated that the number of registered players was approaching 2 million, and it was still increasing. Liu Wu was also very satisfied with the overall performance of the players in this event. It allowed him to see how terrifying the potential of the race that was once known as the Fourth Disaster, the race that once dominated the Three Realms. Chapter 121. On the third day after the 100 Fortresses Hegemony Tournament, the number of online players reached a terrifying 6 million. The Mansion of the Dead was full of new players. These players who had just entered the game were completely shocked by the 100% realism of the game. After experiencing the content of the game, many new players lamented that they had discovered it too late and were one step behind others. However, this did not affect their exploration of the game. Even though they were wearing white-grade equipment, they could still be seen wandering around in various areas of Beiki. In the forum, these new players also asked all kinds of questions like curious babies asking for advice from the old players. Everyone, please tell me, what is the strongest class in this game at this stage? One blade enchantment. You have to fight crazily. Becoming a rune master is really strong. You can fight and resist. Did you see the boss of the demolition officers? He's a rune master. Invincible_loneliness. Although I can't beat him, isn't the strongest class at this stage the demonic god's apostle? A_large_wolf dog. The white phantom isn't weak either. Slams table, crayon_shinchan. The strongest class is indeed the demonic god's apostle, but the strongest player at this stage is a rune master. Laughing emoji. The original poster replied to crayon_shinchan, huh? Why can I only choose 3 classes? There's no option for the demonic god's apostle. Crayon_shinchan replied to the original poster. Silly child, go and wander around. Maybe you'll get one. Rubbing head emoji. The original poster replied to crayon_shinchan. Newbie, I'm just level 4. Can you tell me where to level up faster? Also, where's the top-up entrance? 1punch_man. If you're only level 4, you can wander around the Mansion of the Dead and look for new wandering souls to kill. You can also form a team and go to the Ghost Mountains. It's best if you can join a small guild and ask the old players to take you to a higher level area to clear the monsters. If you're strong enough to join a big guild, you can go out to sea. As for the top-up entrance, I smash my keyboard on the spot. Angry emoji, Shuli_the_strongest. The most suitable area for newbies is the area around the Ghost Mountains. As for the top-up entrance, slams table emoji, Crayon_Shinchan replied to the original poster. Isn't it just a top-up entrance? Come. The Alipay account XXX is the game top-up entrance. The soul coins will be credited immediately. Laughing emoji, the newbie is level 8. Brothers, please explain. I saw someone riding a wolf mount. Where did he get it? It's not even sold in the shop. Crayon_Shinchan. Don't talk, all of you. As a rookie instructor, I want to say something, slams table. Also, to answer the original poster, this creature is called a zombie wolf. There are many of them in Lili District. You have to let the same zombie wolf bite you to death 100 times. After that, it will recognize you as its master and sign a master-servant contract. The original poster replied to Crayon Shinchan. Is it really that difficult? Crayon_Shinchan replied to the original poster. Slaps the table. How can he have such a cool mount if he doesn't have some perseverance? I'm a game collector. I'm going crazy when I see how to raise ships, raise accounts, and collect materials to advance my profession. I'm dying for it. Please teach me how to earn soul coins. I'm really going to die without soul coins. Crayon_Shinchan. Simple. Call your parents, grandpa, grandma, brother, and sister to go fishing at the beach or sneak into the North Rocks at night to cut down trees. I guarantee that you'll have a good harvest. Laughing emoji. A bunch of newbies were asking questions in the forum. Apart from the veteran players who were seriously answering the questions of the newbies, there were also many veteran players like Crayon_Shinchan who specialized in tricking the newbies. The whole forum was unusually lively. What surprised Luwu even more was that a group of foreign forces appeared in the forum of Battle Online and started asking questions on the official website using real-time translation software. I played this game before returning to China and was completely addicted to it. However, when I returned to China, I found out that there was no platform to download this software. May I ask the officials, when will this game be available in our country, Europe? Crayon_Shinchan. I'll give you the European server when I can defeat a bunch of newbies with one punch. At the same time, I'll immediately start the international war. Laughing emoji. Strike_gold. I'm also looking forward to the opening of a few foreign servers, but I'm not sure if they'll be in the Mansion of the Dead with us. If they are, I'll mourn for you for 3 seconds. Invincible_loneliness. Probably soon. This game is getting more and more popular. Your agent may already be in talks with Battle Online Company. It won't take long. Besides, if you're really living under the same sky, you'll find that the game experience is terrible. Laughing emoji. There were many foreign players who strongly requested for a foreign server. Luwu was already considering this matter. After the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament, many foreign game agents had approached him. The specific cooperation matters were still being discussed. The 3-month period was coming to an end. However, he had promised Wuwui that he would only cooperate with him during these 3 months. Therefore, these agents had to be delayed, but it wouldn't take long. At the same time, if you were to open Battle Online overseas, the birthplace of new players would be another problem. Lu Wu and Bei Li had discussed this matter. At this stage, Lu Wu had no other forces in the underworld other than the Mansion of the Dead. However, if he were to place foreign players in the Mansion of the Dead, Lu Wu could imagine how badly these foreigners would be suppressed by the old players of Dragon Nation. However, it was not that there was no solution. Bailey still gave him a suggestion. That was to directly invest the foreign players in a region that was as complicated as Beiki and not unified. Although the living conditions would still be harsh, the overall number of foreign players was even more than the players in the Mansion of the Dead. They could still develop by relying on the innate advantage of the players, but they would be suppressed in the early stages. Lu Wu planned to carefully consider this point before making a decision. After all, this was not a small matter. The better and stronger the players developed, the higher the profits he would have as the person behind the scenes. After all his resources were provided by the players. However, there was still some time before the opening of the foreign server. Luwu was not in a hurry. Therefore, he temporarily put this matter aside and first considered the current development of the game. These few days, the Black Sea Technology Company also contacted Luwu after the 100 Fortresses Hegemony tournament. They hoped that Luwu would start promoting the game in half a month as their gaming pods were about to be mass-produced and officially sold. Naturally, Luwu agreed. This was also a good thing for him. As long as the gaming pods were released, many players who were complaining about the 12-hour mandatory offline mechanism would have a better gaming experience. However, Luwu received a piece of bad news from the Black Sea Technology Company. According to the person in charge of the Black Sea Technology Company, all the major domestic game manufacturers had reached a cooperation agreement with the Jetta Technology Company. He was the only one who refused. Therefore, at this stage, the Jetta Technology Company was preparing to impose a punitive sanction on the game Battle Online after the official release of the gaming pods. Due to the various business rules involved, the Jetta Technology Company had even come up with an excuse to sanction Battle Online when the time came, which was to say that it was incompatible with the operating system. Luwu first felt troubled when he heard this news. This was indeed a bad influence on the promotion of the game. However, when he thought about it carefully, basically, the players who had played this game were die-hard fans. Luwu was very confident that they would not give up on the game because of the gaming pods. At this time, Luwu had already thought of a counterattack. Chapter 122, Land of Tsangshu, Central Palace of His Excellency. His Excellency, Tsangshu, who was sitting in the main hall, looked at the man who was kneeling in front of him with an indifferent expression. You know what to do now? The man below was shivering. Just a few hours ago, he was still a newborn soul drifting in the land of Tsangshu without any consciousness. However, the white-haired man who was addressed as His Excellency had awakened the memories of his past life and made him realize that he had already gone to hell. Such a mysterious and unfathomable method made him extremely afraid. At this moment, he did not dare to have any thoughts of resistance, fearing that he would be thrown into the 18th level of hell and suffer. Hearing Tsangshu's question, the man quickly prostrated on the ground. Lord, His Excellency has granted me a new life. I will do my best to serve His Excellency. Go. I will give you a chance to go back. Do this well, and I will reward you handsomely. Looking at the man kneeling on the ground, a trace of determination flashed in Tsangshu's eyes. Night fell, and the lanterns were lit. After the noise of police sirens came from afar, a series of messy footsteps and the low barking of police dogs approached. The pitter-patter of rain constantly pattered against Qin Yu's body. He leaned against the corner of the abandoned hospital and panted heavily. His expression was filled with disbelief. Fine beads of sweat mixed with blood flowed down his forehead, and his pale lips trembled slightly. Everything that happened in the past half a day made Qin Yu feel as if he was experiencing a nightmare. However, everything was too real, so real that he felt a chill down his spine. He subconsciously turned his head to look at the other end of the abandoned hospital. His vision was shrouded in hazy darkness, causing Qin Yu's nerves to tense up. After waiting for a while, Qin Yu finally let out a sigh of relief. His body leaned against the wall and slid to the ground. His mind began to drift back to half a day ago. Just half a day ago, Qin Yu finished a day of work and returned to the neighborhood he rented with his best friend, Wu Hao, who had already graduated, to prepare for dinner. However, the person who opened the door after knocking was not Wu Hao, but a tall, tanned and skinny man with a goatee who looked to be in his 30s. Both of them looked at each other for a few seconds before the tanned and skinny man smiled and said, "You're back, come on in." When he returned to his room, it was the stranger who opened the door. Although Qin Yu was puzzled, he didn't think much of it. At that time, Qin Yu thought that this person should be a guest of his best friend, Wu Hao. But after entering the room, Qin Yu immediately felt that something was wrong. The house was quiet. The television was off, the dining table was in the air, and the kitchen was quiet. The curtains were drawn, and the house was unusually quiet. This was not the scene that a guest should have in the house. Every time Qin returned home at night, his roommate, Wu Hao, would prepare a table full of food for him. But now everything seemed a little off. Thinking of this, Qin felt uneasy. He subconsciously called out, "Ah Hao," and then walked toward Wu Hao's bedroom. Goatee's voice came from behind Qin. He called out to Qin, who was about to return to his bedroom, and then opened the door to the study. "Come, Wu Hao is here." Qin subconsciously turned around and looked into the study, but when he saw the scene inside, his pupils suddenly shrank. Wu Hao was tied firmly to a computer chair, his mouth was taped, and his body was trembling slightly. He looked at Qin with eyes full of horror. Qin immediately understood that he had encountered a burglary. Qin had participated in some criminology research in school, so he knew that he couldn't be afraid in such a situation. Otherwise, if the robber's last thought was to kill him, then if he gave in, both of their lives would be in danger. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists and was about to step forward to punch the tanned and skinny man's temple, wanting to quickly subdue him. But just as Qin took a step forward, his body froze on the spot. Facing the black muzzle, Qin heart skipped a beat. He never thought that the robber in front of him would carry a gun. At this time, Goatee walked to Wu Hao's side and reached out to tear off the tape around Wu Hao's mouth. Then, he pulled out a triangular bayonet from his waist with his left hand. "Little Hao, if Uncle stabs you with this knife, your blood will flow out in half an hour. There's no way to save you." Hearing this, Wu Hao's face turned pale. He immediately said to Qin, "Brother, do as Uncle says. He's not a bad person, he won't kill us." Looking at Wu Hao's frightened but hopeful eyes, Qin glanced at the gun that Goatee raised. At this time, Qin also understood that the decision was no longer in his hands. At this time, Wu Hao spoke again. "Uncle, how much money do you want? I'll give it to you. We promise not to call the police." Hearing this, Goatee smiled and did not answer. Instead, he picked up a rope and walked to Qin side. Looking at Qin angry eyes, he tied him up and said, "Don't move. When I get the money, I'll let you go." Hearing this, Qin roughly understood the situation in front of him. This Goatee should be Wu Hao's uncle, and the motive for this robbery was for money. But he did not understand why Goatee would target his own family member, Wu Hao. But because of this, Qin believed that Goatee would not kill them. After tying him up, Qin was dragged back to the bedroom and thrown onto the bed. In order to prevent Qin from breaking free, Goatee even tied his limbs to the edge of the bed. Not long after, Goatee came again. This time, he brought a few rolls of tape and tied Qin tightly a few times. After that, Goatee still did not seem to be at ease. He taped Qin eyes, took a plastic bag, and wrapped it around Qin ears, trying to block Qin hearing at the same time. "What a pity you're still so young." Before Qin hearing was blocked, Goatee's sigh made Qin heart skip a beat. A chill emerged from the bottom of his heart and spread throughout his body. Qin subconsciously wanted to break free, but because the binding was too strong, he could not move at all. After the door was closed, the quiet environment caused fear to grow in Qin heart. His blood stopped flowing, and soon his hands and feet became numb. Everything fell into darkness. He could not hear, see, or speak. As long as he gently shook his head, there would be dripping noises in his ears that were covered by the plastic bag. At this time, Qin imagination began to run wild. In his mind, the scene of his heart being pierced by the tri-edged bayonet and violently convulsing in a pool of blood appeared. In the end, the blood would coagulate, and the corpse would slowly stink. Qin was tortured by this invisible fear, and the time seemed to be endless. After an unknown amount of time, Qin, who was in a trance, was violently pulled awake. He could vaguely feel that someone was helping him untie the rope that was tied to the head of the bed. But Qin could not feel happy. This was because such a rough method was absolutely not the action of a rescue worker. Sure enough, as Qin expected, after untying the rope that was tied to the head of the bed, he was violently dragged outside. At this time, because his blood was blocked, his limbs were in trouble, and his strength to resist was very weak. Yu tried to grab something beside him to borrow strength, because he had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. But immediately after, his head hurt, and his thoughts fell into unconsciousness. When he woke up again, Yu found himself lying in the abandoned hospital covered in blood, and the goatee was standing under the dim yellow light, drawing something on the ground with a strange expression. Yu propped his body up with difficulty, and he turned to look to his side. Sure enough, Wu Hao's clothes were also torn, and he was lying on the side covered in blood. What exactly do you want to do? Don't you want money? I'll give it to you. Before Yu could finish speaking, the goatee extended his hand and interrupted him. Yu looked forward with the help of the dim light and found that the goatee was carrying a bucket of paint, and his hand would dip into it from time to time. He seemed to be drawing something on the ground. The tip of his nose was filled with a faint fishy smell, and then he thought of the wounds on his and Wu Hao's bodies. Yu immediately understood what was in the bucket of paint. No matter how stupid he was at this time, Yu realized that the goatee was not here for money, but for another purpose. But now, Yu's body was sore and weak, and he did not even have the strength to stand up. Even if he were to run, he would not be able to run more than a few steps. At this time, Wu Hao also slowly woke up, but compared to Yu, he appeared even weaker. There was not a trace of blood on his deathly pale face, and his expression was somewhat lifeless. This kind of condition looked extremely bad. Sir, I'm done. What should I do next? Suddenly, the goatee stood up and muttered to himself. No one answered, but the goatee's expression became increasingly strange. After a moment, the goatee nodded heavily, and his gaze turned to Yu and Wu Hao. Uncle, what exactly do you want? If you want money, I can give it to you. Just let us go. Wu Hao's voice was weak, and there was a hint of sobbing in it. Little Hao, you know that Uncle likes to gamble, and I've been a rotten person all my life. But this time, there's a chance to turn things around in front of me. How can I let it go? At this time, the goatee suddenly paused. That's right, Uncle was actually beaten to death a month ago because he could not pay off his gambling debts. Hearing this, a chill rose in Yu and Wu Hao's hearts, and they could not help but feel their hair stand on end. The goatee's eyes flashed with a frightening cold light as he gradually approached. At this moment, Yu's heart was filled with despair. Was he really going to die in the hands of this lunatic? After the goatee approached the two of them, he first grabbed Wu Hao's wrist, and then he grabbed Yu's hair, dragging the two of them to where he was standing previously. After being dragged to the light, Yu was horrified to find that under his feet was a strange array pattern drawn with blood. After the goatee dragged the two of them to the array eye of the pattern, he grabbed Wu Hao's left hand, and then he pulled out the tri-edged bayonet from his waist and forcefully slashed it. Blood spurted and dripped continuously. Wu Hao and Yu, who saw this scene, were filled with despair. Yu was limp to the side, and he could only watch helplessly as Wu Hao's life flowed away. He tried to struggle and resist, but he was kicked to the ground, and he could not get up no matter what. The continuous loss of blood caused Wu Hao to fall into a coma. After the goatee put down his arm, Wu Hao was already limp on the ground, motionless. It's your turn. A bloodthirsty scarlet flashed in the goatee's eyes. He grabbed Yu, who was on the ground, and used the same method to cut his wrist. What is your purpose in doing this? Yu asked weakly. Death was so close, but he did not want to die without knowing why. If it's you, I can only say that your luck is bad. I actually only want Little Hao's life because his soul is different from others. As for you, you're just unlucky, but you can still contribute a bit of value. The goatee's tone was somewhat excited, as if he was looking forward to something. At this moment, Yu's consciousness gradually blurred. Vaguely, he saw the blood-painted array emit bursts of scarlet light, and malevolent phantoms of evil spirits emerged from the array. Chapter 123. After the execution, the prison guard and the executioner left with the 4 corpses. It was a long journey, as if there was no end to it. Under the nourishment of the blood rain, the bodies of the 4 gradually solidified. Thinking about how he was wrongly accused as a murderer, how he was imprisoned, and how he was executed, Yu's resentment surged, and he could not calm it down for a long time. "Brother, let's go." Hearing Bei Li's explanation, Luwu suddenly remembered that there was a guy who was not pulled down to the underworld by the formation. No matter how unwilling Qin Yu was, he could only accept the punishment of the law in front of solid evidence. "Immortal! Immortal!" Seeing Qin Yu's expression, the old man mumbled a few words of joy and retreated back to the corner. "I'm telling the truth," Qin Yu said while suppressing the anger in his heart. Just as the swordsman was about to leave, rays of blue light appeared in the sky above His Excellency's palace. Arriving at a door, the prison guard opened it and said to the man, "Behave yourself after you go in." As early as a week ago, the court had declared Qin Yu guilty of murder, and because of this, he was imprisoned in this prison. In the distance, a graceful figure was standing on the water, holding a glass lamp in her hand. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and her face was like a peach blossom. She looked like a lady waiting for her husband to return. After swallowing the old woman, the evil spirit's figure became more and more solidified. At the place where the 4 people died, a vortex invisible to the naked eye was slowly forming. Yes, the 3 souls beside him were also prisoners who were executed at the same time as Qin Yu. Qin Yu did not know what crimes they had committed. Thinking about how he died unjustly and how his soul would be sucked dry after his death, Qin Yu's resentment continued to grow. When he looked up again, he discovered that there was no longer any beautiful woman. There was only an ugly old woman with a crooked back who was grinning and waving at them. "My king, should we capture more beginner souls to carry on with the plan? Let's finish this cigarette and go." He knew that his life was over. This was the last conversation they had. After getting the same answer from Qin Yu, the square-faced man stood up helplessly, shook his head, and left. The man dragged his legs numbly into the room. Through the thin light, one could roughly see that the person who spoke was an old man with unkempt hair and a dirty face with an unshaven beard. A middle-aged man in a white coat heard Qin Yu's movements and walked out from the house next door. In the darkness, Qin Yu vaguely heard Goatee's voice. "Prison? Why am I in prison?" After an unknown period of time, the prisoner carriage drove into a forest, and Qin Yu was also pressed down here. There was a crackling sound, like a piece of wood being thrown into a fire. Qin Yu could faintly hear the miserable screams of 3 people. However, when he saw that there wasn't even a scar on his wrist that had been cut open, his head buzzed. After reading Qin Yu's resume, the middle-aged man asked, "Is there any error in the information?" A trace of anger flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. "If I become an evil spirit, I will definitely kill that bastard." For his last meal, there were no relatives or friends. Only the old beggar who was in the same cell as him accompanied him. At this time, the old woman also discovered that Qin Yu was unusual, and the smile on her face gradually became fierce. Lu Wu was stunned. Just when Qin Yu was about to collapse, a hideous evil spirit's head slowly appeared on his soul's chest. "I didn't kill anyone." Therefore, in his opinion, Qin Yu had always been quibbling and had never told the truth. At this time, the old woman also noticed Qin Yu, who was standing still in a daze. She looked a little surprised. "What are you thanking me for? I feel bored without you to chat with. As long as you don't mind this old man's cheap mouth, I'm fine with it." "Ha! Who was this old woman? How could she capture wandering souls in hell without permission? Could it be that the survivor is one of our players, and his soul is bound by the artifact? That's why I can't drag him down?" Qin Yu's eyes opened a slit with difficulty. Still quibbling. "There are only your and Wu Hao's fingerprints at the scene. There is no trace of a third person. Tell me, what is your motive for killing Wu Hao?" Without waiting for the old woman to respond, the evil spirit pulled her hair and pulled her away from Qin Yu. "So there really is hell after death." The surroundings were gradually surrounded by blue flowers. Specks of starlight floated up from the flowers, filling the space between heaven and earth. Crossing the boundary? Do you have any proof? Sangshu already had a guess in his mind, but he still answered firmly. At this time, a blood-colored formation diagram appeared in the hand of the leading immortal. Although the old beggar did not speak properly, he managed to make Chinyu look down on his final life and death. A crisp sound rang out. Goatee was horrified to find that his soul had been knocked out of his body, and his body fell to the ground with lifeless eyes. At this time, Sangshu's heart was filled with anger and fear. Then he smiled and waved at Chinyu again. Meow. None of your business. Chinyu murmured to himself as he looked down at his almost transparent body. It was late at night, and only the rustling of the leaves in the wind could be heard. Ow! As the cat howled, its body disappeared on the spot and crashed into Sangshu's body. The old woman also obviously noticed that something was wrong. She immediately stopped sucking and turned her head to look. Hearing the police sirens and footsteps approaching, Chinyu opened his weak eyes and finally felt a sense of security in his heart. He knew that he was going to be saved soon. At this time, Chinyu had also recalled the memory of being interrogated. Thinking about how he was accused of being a murderer, Chinyu felt a little baffled. The middle-aged doctor still had a smile on his face. All right, it's not up to me whether you killed him or not. I'm just a prison doctor. When you recover, you can go and prove it yourself. My task now is to take care of you and don't let anything happen to you here. Oh, right, there's something I forgot to tell you. The square-faced man who was about to push the door open suddenly turned to face Chinyu. I understand. According to the old beggar, after extreme misfortune comes bliss. Living in this world was extremely unlucky, so he would definitely be lucky when he went down. Chinyu's face was filled with resentment towards the man's suspicious attitude. A strong beam of light hit Chinyu's face, stinging his eyes. Chinyu nodded and drank the last glass of wine. He stood up and walked toward the prison guard. In the white light, he saw a hazy figure sitting in front of him. Death sentence, with a 3-month suspension. Specks of black gas emerged from Chinyu's body and were slowly sucked out by the old woman. His spiritual body began to fade again. The groundless murder accusation, the erased traces of the goatee, and the most unbelievable thing was that the injuries on his body had disappeared. All these things connected together, making Chinyu feel like he had fallen into a foggy whirlpool. Everything was strange. Chinyu glared at the old woman who was lying on him. The anger in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. Bailey chuckled. I've already recorded the formation map. We'll know where it leads after checking. I think there will be someone who wants to stop him more than us. At this time, the executioner was already waiting in the empty space in the middle of the forest. At the same time, there were 3 other people who were about to be executed like Chinyu. The executioner ignored Chinyu this time. Instead, he patted Chinyu's shoulder again and turned to walk out of the door. Someone will naturally come to kill him after exposing his existence. Bailey squinted her eyes and smiled. Chinyu subconsciously propped himself up. His arms were abnormally sore, causing him to stagger and almost fall. Sigh, a life for a life. There's nothing to be afraid of. Besides, there's a new life waiting for you after you go down. In a prison on the outskirts of Tianluo City, a young man who looked like he was in his 20s was walking slowly, accompanied by prison guards. As soon as Sangshu's voice fell, 8 figures appeared in the sky. They were surrounded by a mystical mist and had an otherworldly aura. Each of them was stepping on a cloud, but their eyes were filled with emotionless indifference. Where am I? The bright moonlight shone through the gaps between the leaves, making the ground look slightly mottled. However, if the person behind the scenes had a huge influence, he would not be able to handle it alone. The reappearance of the goatee filled Chinyu with despair. He wanted to struggle and shout, but he had lost too much blood and his body was sore. He had no strength to resist and could only watch helplessly as he was dragged into the darkness of the abandoned hospital. When he returned home, Luwu glanced at Bailey, who was eating snacks. He felt helpless and extended his hand to greet her, indicating that he was back. At this moment, a faint voice was heard from afar. The melody was mellow, and the voice sounded like it was crying and complaining. What are you? Luwu leaped onto the sofa when he heard the voice. Chinyu, who had suddenly woken up, felt sore all over his body. The cold touch of the iron chair and handcuffs made his body shiver subconsciously. The strong sense of exhaustion made Chinyu feel even more dazed. You're awake? Qin Yu felt a chill in his heart when he saw this scene. He clearly felt that something was wrong. Qin Yu answered without turning his head, "Of course. I'll prepare some good food and wine for you when you come back." His feet were connected by thick iron chains. Every step he took was accompanied by the sound of the chains being dragged. After that, the evil spirit fell into a deep silence. A moment later, the man walked out of the house. As he said this, Qin Yu's mood was extremely complicated. However, at this moment, a figure emerged from the darkness and approached him quickly. The figure grabbed his hair and pulled him into the darkness. The goatee had no strength to resist such a strange force and was instantly sucked into Lu Wu's mouth. While Qin Yu was deep in thought, the door on the other side of the infirmary was pushed open. A man carrying a long black sword on his back asked solemnly. Qin Yu looked a little confused at this moment. His mind was a mess, and he could not distinguish between reality and dreams. Qin Yu endured the soreness and stood up. He took off his shirt and began to check his body. Qin Yu's emotions fluctuated violently, and he became much more clear-headed. Images from his memory kept coming back to him. Feeling the call of the voice, Qin Yu and the three souls beside him could not help but show a look of anticipation on their faces. Their souls also quickly swam in the direction of the voice along with the seawater. "What should we do?" Lu Wu asked solemnly. "Yes." Qin Yu was left sitting on the bed in a daze, lost in thought. "Kid, after the worst comes the best. You will definitely be lucky if you go down there. When I go down there, remember to help me. It's Wu Hao. It's Uncle Wu Hao who tied Wu Hao and me up there and killed Wu Hao." Looking at the evil spirit's face, the old woman's expression suddenly changed. The evil spirit's body surface was surging with black fog, and the outline of its body was faintly discernible. After a moment, the evil spirit suddenly let out a hysterical roar toward the sky. At this time, the man also stood up, shook his head, and sighed. Then he walked into the small house next to him. The damp and dark room covered Han Yi's already depressed mood with a layer of haze. At this time, the old woman had already pounced on Qin Yu. At the moment of contact, Qin Yu's soul became extremely stiff as if it had been petrified. Seeing that everyone had arrived, the executioner lit a few cigarettes and stuffed them into the mouths of Qin Yu and the other three. Qin Yu still ignored the old beggar, but the old beggar crawled out from the corner and moved to Qin Yu's bedside. As he spoke, the old beggar smiled and tore off a chicken drumstick with his hand. He stuffed it into his mouth and chewed. According to our investigation, Wu Hao's uncle committed suicide 3 years ago because he could not pay off his debts due to gambling. After a moment of talking to himself, the man with the goatee took out the tri-edged bayonet from his pocket and slowly approached Qin Yu. "Yes, I want revenge," Qin Yu replied while gritting his teeth. "Yes, he is our player, and his soul has been bound by the artifact. Even if the person behind the scenes came personally, he would not be able to take his soul away." Qin Yu was dissatisfied and filed an appeal. The court gave Qin Yu this chance, but he still could not produce evidence to prove his innocence. According to the description in the myth, shouldn't he be sentenced by the judge after death? However, if he could not prove his innocence and establish evidence of murder, then Qin Yu also understood what was waiting for him. Accompanied by the sound of the iron door closing, the surroundings fell into darkness. Awake! The man waited for a moment, but realized that Qin Yu did not speak at all. Thinking that he would be sentenced to death in 3 months, Qin Yu smiled miserably. Seeing this, Qin Yu quickly turned his wrist to face himself. "Forget it. The statement will be like this for now. I have a question to ask you. Since you said that there is such a third party, do you have any evidence?" In Qin Yu's view, the old woman's smile was extremely ugly. It made him subconsciously frown and reveal a disgusted expression. At this time, he felt as if his soul was being strangled by the neck, and he was about to suffocate. "Promise me one condition, and I will give you the power to take revenge." Hey, that's right. Young people should have some emotions. Don't be lifeless, even though you are really about to die. The old beggar added a sentence at the end with a poisonous tongue. When people are in a certain uncontrollable state, some things happen that even they themselves can't believe. When Xinyu woke up again, he found himself lying on the bed, surrounded by the smell of disinfectant. During this period of contact, Xinyu also had some understanding of this person. His situation was not much better than his. Although it was not a death sentence, he could only stay in this prison for the rest of his life. All day long, the two of them were alike, haggard for their master, when flowers were blooming. That's why I call him a genius for coming up with this method. Unfortunately, he does not have the help of artifacts. If he wants to collect the souls of the mortal world, he can only rely on the sacrificial array, which is undoubtedly much slower in efficiency. I guess this time, the soul transfer should be his experiment. If it is effective, then he will definitely increase the number of the sacrificial array next time. The goateed man raised his head with difficulty, only to find that there was a snow-white cat standing in front of him. The cat's green pupils were shining with a frightening light, as if it wanted to suck him in. I originally came to check on your body, but it's just as well. Let's continue with the statement. Tell me what happened that day again. Xinyu simply turned his body to the side and pulled up the quilt to cover his head. He did not want to continue being entangled with the old beggar. After the square-faced man left, Xinyu was brought back to the prison cell by the prison guards. The gloomy sky was filled with dark clouds, and the blood drizzle was constantly falling. At this time, Xinyu was floating on the boundless sea with the three people who had died with him. A huge suction force suddenly appeared with a faint green energy, forming a whirlpool in Lu Wu's mouth. At this time, Sangshu's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot and appeared in the sky above the main hall. As he waved his sleeves towards the sky, a huge handprint floated in the air and grabbed the thousands of blue sword rays in the sky. Xinyu was dumbfounded when he saw that the bruises and scratches caused by the goateed man's binding had disappeared. After listening to Bei Li's explanation, Lu Wu also realized the seriousness of the situation. "I'll eat you." Lu Wu stared at the goateed man's soul floating in the air, opened his mouth, and inhaled. A tall and straight middle-aged man with a square face walked in. This time, he had specially found a newly born primordial soul to do this in order to not be discovered by any faction. He wanted to do it quietly, but he did not expect that, just as he started, he would be stopped by a faction in the dark, and even the goatee he had sent out was killed. However, even as the person involved, Xinyu could not explain the reason. Xinyu wanted to retreat, but his knees were firmly locked by the seawater, and he could not move at all. Born in 1995, orphan, later adopted by the Tiger Lake Orphanage in Tianluo City. Studied in XXX, graduated from XXX, and now works at XXX. "Kid, I heard that you're going to be sentenced to death." "That's awesome." A hoarse voice came from a dark corner. During this period of time, Xinyu had gradually become familiar with the old beggar. Xinyu was not in the mood to pay attention to the old beggar. He lay on the bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. After drifting for an unknown period of time, the color of the sea turned brown, and it was as deep as the water of the yellow springs described in the myths. As he gradually approached the place where the singing was coming from, blue flower buds rose from the water and slowly bloomed. "Tell me the whole story. Remember, I'll record everything you say. If there's any falsehood, then I'm sorry, but you'll probably be promoted from the most likely suspect to the murderer. This is a prison, and you've lost too much blood. Rest a little more," the middle-aged doctor replied with a smile. On the other side of the sea, there seemed to be something attracting Xinyu, making him want to move in that direction involuntarily. At this time, Xinyu understood what the man meant. He was saying that he killed someone when his mental illness was acting up. At this time, he could see that the old beggar's legs were obviously twisted. "How is this possible?" Xinyu muttered to himself. His expression was full of disbelief. This map shows the location of His Excellency Sangshu's palace in the underworld, and it's connected to the Een talisman that you have. Are you still going to quibble? But after a moment, it seemed to be faintly discernible, as if it would dissipate at any time. Suddenly, a soft and cute voice sounded in Qinyu's mind. The old woman grinned fiendishly, revealing two fangs as she bit down on Qinyu's neck. Seeing that Qinyu seemed to be fine except for a slight emotional fluctuation, The middle-aged doctor turned around and walked into the small room next to him. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't kill Wu Hao, Qin Yu murmured subconsciously. Qin Yu had already guessed the identity of the man in front of him, so he nodded cooperatively. F***CKU. I just came down here. I'm going to die. I can't accept this. I'm the dignified His Excellency of the underworld. Even if I'm guilty, the Emperor of Fengdu in my area should be the one to deal with it. Sangshu waved his long sleeves, his long hair dancing even though there was no wind, and his aura rose rapidly. What does it have to do with you? Sangshu looked solemn as he looked at the sky. In a trance, Qin Yu had the illusion that he was looking at himself. After Qin Yu sat down, the middle-aged man opposite him picked up a piece of paper and read. Under the guidance of the prison guard, Qin Yu passed through a series of iron gates and finally walked out of the prison. He got into a prison van and drove towards the execution site. Qin Yu tried to break free, but the part below his knees was firmly locked by the seawater, so he could only drift along with the waves. The cold and emotionless blood-red eyes stared at Qin Yu, but Qin Yu was not afraid. Instead, he felt a sense of kinship from the evil ghost, as if they were connected by blood. Very well, Qin Yu, this is the third time. I'll ask you again, did you kill anyone? Special article, Friends from the Heavenly Realm. This is the land of Sangshu from the underworld. Why have you come? Do you think you're unlucky? The old beggar continued to prattle on. It's done. Qin Yu immediately woke up from his state of obsession. Do you want to live? Do you want to have the power to take revenge? Sangshu's expression changed when he felt the surging aura outside the hall, and the man with the sword beside him was even more terrified. Bailey nodded. I saw it, and I already know what he wants to do. He's not a simple person. What a pity. The man looked at Qin Yu's wrist carefully, and his expression became a little strange. Qin Yu sat on the iron chair opposite the desk skillfully and looked up at the square-faced man wearing a police badge in front of him. He laughed at himself, but did not say a word. Isn't this similar to our artifact? Lu Wu was a little shocked when he heard it. I didn't King kill anyone. I didn't kill Wu Hao, Qin Yu immediately said angrily. However, compared to Qin Yu, the other three people were obviously in a daze, as if they had lost something and were moving forward along with the waves. Continue with the plan. Contact Sun Shadow, Crocodragon, and Finshui. Ask them to send their most elite subordinates to gather at my place. Since I've been discovered, there's no need to hide it anymore. I've been planning this for 10,000 years, and since it started, how can I stop it? Only a few people knew about this, and Sangshu was confident that those people would never betray him. The woman he loved the most in his life had been imprisoned in the depths of the dungeon, and it was impossible for her to betray him either. Qin Yu felt an inexplicable sadness when he heard the voice, and he felt a sense of familiarity towards this voice from the bottom of his heart. How is this possible? It was clearly cut open. At the critical moment when the military knife was about to pierce Qin Yu's neck, a figure suddenly appeared beside Qin Yu. The evil spirit did not answer, and its bloody mouth suddenly expanded, shoving the old woman's head into its mouth. Then it forcefully lifted the old woman and swallowed her whole body. Qin Yu did not wait for the voice to state its conditions, and he shouted in his heart, I agree. I'll agree to anything, even if I'll be consigned to eternal damnation, as long as I can have my revenge. As the four of them approached each other, Qin Yu's chest suddenly became hot, and the temperature rose rapidly. The bright red sparks spread rapidly, and a gunshot was heard when it reached the tip of his chest. The world seemed so strange and cold. Sangshu's expression was ferocious, and he clenched his fists tightly. However, he did not know which force was targeting him, and how they knew about his plot. The roar echoed throughout the world, as if announcing its arrival to the underground world. Qin Yu, tell me, why did you kill your roommate, Wu Hao? A dignified voice suddenly rang out. He glanced at Qin Yu, walked to his side, and patted Qin Yu's shoulder. In the depths of the forest where the vegetation was swaying, there was no trace of anyone except for the traces of blood on the wet soil. The midnight bell rang, and two fully armed prison guards opened the metal door. Sangshu's expression revealed a hint of worry when he heard that. Resentment and anger intertwined, and Qin Yu's chest became hotter and hotter. He patted the edge of the bed. "Kid, I don't know if you're innocent, but I'm telling the truth." Qin Yu clinked his wine glass with the old beggar and downed it with a smile. "Old man, thank you for your help during this period." She lifted the glass lamp, and a black mist emerged from her mouth and pounced at Qin Yu. Qin Yu could vaguely hear the man telling the doctor something about needing a psychiatric examination. No, kill, human." Qin Yu glared at the man and said through gritted teeth. The voice sounded like a newlywed woman who was alone in her boudoir, calling for her husband who had left home. It was poignant and touching. "Tell me more specifically, how is he going to defy the heavens?" He looked up in confusion, but found that Qin Yu had already fallen asleep with his head tilted. They retreated to the side after the prison guards, and the executioner spoke a few words. Everything that happened before Qin Yu's death flashed through his mind like a fast-forward movie. At this moment, Qin Yu's resentment turned into a nearly solid purple gas that circulated in his chest. The man took out a pen and a notebook from his pocket as he spoke. After reading Qin Yu's psychiatric examination report, the square-faced man knew that there was nothing wrong with Qin Yu's mind. He had been planning this for 10,000 years, and the blood-colored diagram of the soul transfer formation was specially researched by him for this matter. "My lord, why couldn't the soul transfer formation that you bestowed upon him take away this person's soul? Even my subordinate soul was almost devoured during the process." In the palace of the lord of the land of Sangshu in the underworld, the other three were still in a daze as they slowly floated into the old woman's glass lamp. "There's no mistake," Qin Yu replied calmly. Waves of weakness came over him, and this weakness from the soul made Qin Yu more clear-headed. The man also recorded everything that Qin Yu said in his notebook with a serious face. The man with the goatee was horrified, and he struggled to stand up, but he saw 4 balls of green flames burning on the cat's limbs. "I can't accept this. I don't want to die. I want to take revenge." Looking at the unconscious Qin Yu, Lu Wu felt a little helpless. After some thought, he reached out his hand and took out a grain of spiritual rice from the artifact. He painfully broke it into 2 halves and threw 1 half in his mouth, while he fed the other half to Qin Yu. It slowly sucked in the 4 confused figures who were rooted to the ground. Therefore, a day ago, Qin Yu's verdict was delivered to him. Qin Yu raised his head subconsciously. This time, the voice did not speak. "Where am I?" However, when Qin Yu mentioned the glowing blood-colored formation and the appearance of evil spirits, the man immediately frowned and interrupted Qin Yu. After making sure that the man was fine, Lu Wu jogged to the area where the blood-colored formation was painted. After carefully examining the formation, he opened his mouth and blew. A gust of green energy blew past, and the blood-colored formation instantly became blurry. After doing all this, Lu Wu immediately turned around and left. Seeing that Qin Yu had woken up, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he walked to Qin Yu's bed and sat down on a stool. Qin Yu heard him and took a deep breath. The strong smell of tobacco made Qin Yu's eyes turn red, but he still took a few deep breaths to relieve the fear in his heart. The sudden appearance of the blue rays pierced a hole in the sky, and rays of blue rays fell like sharp swords. "Sangshu, you crossed the line. We are under the order of the Big Dipper Lord to capture you and bring you back to convict you." After 3 months of torment, this day arrived as scheduled. Have you ever been traumatized mentally before? Under Qin Yu's astonished gaze, a wisp of green smoke floated out of his chest and turned into the figure of an evil spirit with a green face and sharp fangs. Bailey nodded. "I have to say this man is a genius. He wants to collect the souls of mortals and refine them into war puppets. He wants to fight against the heavens with the talents of the human race." Looking at the beautiful face, Qin Yu could not help but tremble. A sense of guilt welled up in his heart, as if he was the heartless lover who left the lady in front of him alone in her boudoir. Since Qin Yu's consciousness was clear, the calling disappeared, and his body stayed where it was. Sangshu fell into deep thought. He felt as if there was an invisible hand hovering above him, and it could launch a fatal blow at any time. The sound echoed in the abandoned hospital. Goatee, who was standing next to Chinyu, fell to his knees when he heard the cat's meow. His face was filled with horror. He pulled his right hand out from under the blanket and held it in front of the man. Did I make this wound myself? Chinyu clenched his fists uncontrollably. He sat paralyzed on the bed with mixed feelings, and his thoughts were in a mess. What should we do? The man with the sword looked solemn. Isn't this hell? But why is Battle Online's attribute panel here? Under the supervision of the prison guards, Chinyu's hands were tied and pressed to the center of the open space. The room was not big, and the furnishings were simple. There were only 2 chairs and a desk. Chinyu felt exhausted when he thought of the things he had experienced recently, no matter how strong his mental endurance was. The meal before the execution was very sumptuous. It was commonly known as the beheading meal. Eating a full meal before death would ensure that one would not starve on the way to the netherworld. Why would he kill his classmate and best friend? Moreover, how could there be no traces of Goatee at the scene? Initially, I chose the initial soul to be on the safe side so that no forces would suspect me. But now, I suspect that the behind-the-scenes force who stopped us from carrying out our plan already knows who I am. However, Chinyu's face was filled with disbelief because he realized that an attribute panel had appeared on the evil spirit. Chinyu, male, 23 years old. Next, Chinyu began to recount everything that happened that day from the beginning to the end. The sound of a pen sliding on a piece of paper could be heard. After he finished making the notes, the voice spoke again. There's another important point. His methods are too evil. If he really wants to achieve his goal, the mortal world will definitely be turned into a charaba. That's why we have to stop him. Yes, Chinyu nodded. Chapter 124. His words had undoubtedly infuriated the 8 immortals. They looked at His Excellency Sangshu angrily and scolded him. Sangshu, the 3 realms has clearly stated that all forces from the underworld are not allowed to enter the Yang realm, let alone make contact with the human race. Since you've used the Yin talisman to enter the Yang realm, that's a violation of the 3 realms rules. Why can't the Heaven realm, the one who set the rules, capture you? Sangshu smiled faintly. I'm really curious. Since you're so afraid of the human world rising again, why don't you just destroy them instead of making the 3 realms rules? What a bunch of hypocrites. Are you trying to start a war between the immortal realm and the underworld? That's what I said. It has nothing to do with the underworld. I just can't stand you sanctimonious people. Don't you want to capture me? Come and try. Sangshu said indifferently as he floated in the air and looked at the 8 immortals. After a few provocations, the 8 immortals who came from afar could no longer hold it in. They formed a hand seal together, and blue immortal swords appeared in the air. Demon slaying formation, slaughter. At this moment, the formation suddenly expanded, and the countless blue immortal swords that were scattered between heaven and earth began to merge together to form a giant blue sword. The 8 immortals stood behind the giant blue sword at the same time and pushed it forward together, pressing down on His Excellency Sangshu's head. His Excellency Sangshu did not panic in the face of the immortals' powerful suppression. He shook his right hand lightly, and an ancient long blade slowly appeared. He then turned sideways and swung it forward. A giant blade ray that was hundreds of meters long soared into the sky and instantly collided with the giant blue sword. The entire sky turned bright as day, and the energy released from the collision turned into circles of ripples that spread in all directions. Sangshu, how dare you attack us? Do you really want to start a war between the 2 realms? I've already said that I'm me and I have nothing to do with the underworld. Boom! A loud noise came from the sky as the giant blue sword tore through the blade ray and fell again. The ancient long blade in Sangshu's hand slashed towards the sky again. The purple blade aura continued to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth as it shot into the sky, condensing and expanding. The blade aura once again collided with the giant blue sword, and the 8 immortals' attacks were blocked once again. At this moment, several silhouettes rose into the air from the ground. My king, subordinate Riing, is here to help. Your Majesty, I'm here to help you. My king, subordinate crocodile dragon, is here to help. These figures hovered in the air and appeared beside Sangshu, glaring angrily at the 8 immortals. The 8 immortals blanched at the sight of this. They thought that Sangshu would follow them back obediently, but they didn't expect him to fight back. If it was just Sangshu, they would not be afraid. However, if the other Ghost Kings and Ghost Generals were to join forces with Sangshu, there was no way they could win. This battle has nothing to do with you. Leave. Sangshu's gaze swept across each of his subordinates. He was relieved, but he still spoke in a firm tone. Your Majesty, I told you to get out. Don't you understand? Sangshu's expression turned cold. Having ruled over the land of Sangshu for hundreds of thousands of years, the intimidating aura that emanated from Sangshu's body made the Ghost Kings and Ghost Generals tremble. Go down. This battle is a battle between the traitors of the underworld and the immortals. Do you want to become the sinners of the underworld as well? Looking at the struggle on his subordinates' faces, Sangshu waved his hand and swatted all the Ghost Kings and Ghost Generals down from the air. After that, Sangshu turned to look at the sky. I've been annoyed by you guys for a long time. Today, let me see what you immortals are capable of. A layer of purple energy appeared on the surface of Sangshu's body as he spoke, corroding his clothes. Then, the purple energy slowly solidified and turned into a purple golden armor. Surrender, you maniac! It was obvious that Sangshu was ready to fight to the death. The 8 immortals' expressions changed. The blue greatsword glowed brightly and pressed down fiercely. Sangshu levitated in the air as he faced the sword ray formation. He gripped his ancient long saber tightly in his right hand and faced the blue greatsword head-on. Boom! A huge airflow swept across the sky above His Excellency's palace. Break! Sangshu's long hair danced in the wind, his expression filled with determination as he pressed his long saber upwards. A few cracks appeared on the blue greatsword and continued to spread upwards. Kacha-boom! A mushroom cloud formed in the sky, and Sangshu and the 8 immortals were sent flying at the same time. Immortals? That's all you've got. Sangshu pointed his long saber at the 8 immortals after he steadied himself and sneered. You? The 8 immortals looked terrible. It was obvious that they had underestimated Sangshu's strength. However, they would definitely be mocked if they returned like this. Just as they were about to attack again, a giant golden hand appeared in the sky and slowly pressed down. Even the Ghost Generals and Ghost Kings who were standing on the ground could not withstand the enormous wind pressure and were sent flying. Heavenly Lord! The 8 immortals turned around and bowed towards the sky. The giant hand carried the might of heaven and earth and came crashing down like a mountain. Sangshu looked terrible as he stared at the giant golden hand. He did not expect the Heavenly Lord to show up just to capture him. Break! The ancient long saber danced again and met the attack. Kacha! The ancient long saber shattered into pieces the moment it collided with the giant golden hand. Sangshu spat out a mouthful of blood as the purple golden armor on his body cracked. His body fell and crashed onto the ground. Stubborn fool, I shall grant you death. A rebuke resounded in the sky. Then, the giant golden hand accelerated its descent, and the space below began to distort under the terrifying pressure. Sangshu's eyes were filled with indignation. He struggled to resist, but the giant golden hand had already locked down the space within a few miles. He could not move at all under the pressure of the giant palm. He had planned for this for 10,000 years, but it was going to end like this. Sangshu, who was lying on the ground, looked up at the giant golden hand in the sky and laughed at himself before slowly closing his eyes. Am I going to die? The girl's figure appeared in his mind, and he could not help but smile bitterly. The land of Sangshu was not called Sangshu back then, but Yuanshu. He was not His Excellency Sangshu, but just a young man who wanted to become stronger. They first met on the pagoda mountain of Yuanshu. At that time, she was dressed in rags and hiding in a tree hole, shivering and looking at the world with a strange gaze. Sangshu, who happened to meet her, only gave her some food out of sympathy. He did not expect the girl to cling on to him, and he could not get rid of her no matter what. She told Sangshu that her name was Xian Ku, and that she came from the heaven realm. Her parents forced her to cultivate every day, and she could not take it anymore. So she secretly passed through the psychic door between the heaven realm and the underworld and came to the underworld. In the end, she ended up on the pagoda mountain, which was filled with wild beasts. However, she had never cultivated properly and was weak, so she could only hide in a tree hole to protect herself. At that time, Xian Ku was a naive girl who could not even defeat a wolf. Her days in the pagoda mountain were basically spent in a corner. She would go out and fight whenever she encountered a beast that she could defeat and run away if she could not. If it was not for Sangshu, Xian Ku felt that she might have starved to death. However, this encounter was an unending love that lasted for 100,000 years. He kept the secret that she came from the heaven realm for Xian Ku, and she gradually fell in love with this man who was passionate about cultivation. Growth, bonds, and feelings grew in both of their hearts, and they grew stronger and stronger. However, Sangshu did not admit his feelings at that time. To him, cultivation was more important than anything else, and he ignored Xian Ku's declarations a few times. He even rejected her coldly. The relationship between the two changed when Sangshu provoked a ghost king's child during the recruitment of the King Yuan's army. He was beaten to the brink of death and almost lost his life. It was also at that time that Sangshu became even more determined about the importance of strength, and he became obsessed with becoming stronger to change his fragile fate. Xian Ku saw Sangshu's change, and she supported him silently in her heart. However, the path to becoming stronger was undoubtedly difficult. He wanted to rely on the power of the King Yuan's army, but he needed resources and power in addition to hard work. Sangshu was not flexible at that time, and he ran into obstacles everywhere. He was often bullied, and he was on the brink of death a few times. If it was not for Xian Ku taking care of him, he would have died a long time ago. Xian Ku's mentality gradually changed when she saw Sangshu return with wounds all over his body. She knew that Sangshu would really die if he continued like this. However, Sangshu did not listen to Xian Ku's advice at all. He stubbornly insisted that the path to becoming stronger would always be filled with hardships, and as long as he could overcome them, he would be able to become strong. It was under those circumstances that Xian Ku made the decision to sacrifice herself for Sangshu. In the days that followed, people gave him cultivation methods, and no one in the army dared to bully him anymore. Everything changed. His path was smooth, and with his firm determination to become stronger, Sangshu slowly became a ghost general in the land of Yuanshu from a small soldier. However, when Sangshu finally obtained the power he wanted, he suddenly felt empty in his heart, as if he had lost something important. At that moment, Sangshu faced his heart and realized that he had fallen deeply in love with the woman who had been hiding behind his back and sacrificing herself for him. He could not suppress his love and went to look for her, telling her that he wanted to marry her. This time, she rejected him, saying that she was not good enough for him and that she no longer loved him. Fate was unpredictable. Just when Sangshu realized that he loved her deeply, she wanted to leave him. At that time, Sangshu was very confused and did not know what he had done wrong. Until one day, he met Xian Ku again in the mansion of a ghost king. Only then did he realize how much this woman had sacrificed for him behind his back. He regretted, he hated, and he was in despair. However, nothing could be changed. Sangshu drowned his sorrows in alcohol. He drank for 3 days and got drunk for 3 nights straight. 3 days later, Sangshu killed his way into the Ghost King Palace alone with a sword in his hand, swearing to take back the woman he loved from the Ghost King. That time, Sangshu was covered in wounds again, and the woman knelt on the ground with tears in her eyes, begging the Ghost King. Sangshu's life was saved in the end, and he was once again motivated to become stronger. This time, it was for no other reason than to take back the woman he loved. Step by step, from a ghost general to a ghost king, and then to His Excellency, Sangshu. He really did it, and he killed the Ghost King with his own hands. That day, thousands of creatures from the land of Sangshu came to congratulate him, but the woman was still unwilling to marry him. Even when he personally put on her red makeup and put on a flower crown, she said, "How can I be worthy of you, His Excellency, Sangshu?" At that moment, Sangshu angrily questioned her why. "I'm the His Excellency, Sangshu now. Am I not qualified to marry you?" The woman smiled sadly. "How can I be the His Excellency, Sangshu, if I don't have my lips for thousands of people to taste?" Their love that had lasted for 100,000 years was still fruitless in the end. In the end, Sangshu found out that the woman had an immortal body, but she had been staying in the underworld for tens of thousands of years. Her immortal source had been exhausted, and she did not have much time left. Therefore, she did not want to be a burden to him, and just wanted to leave quietly. Sangshu, who knew about this, searched for spiritual materials like a madman, trying to save the woman's dying life. The spiritual materials were indeed effective, and they prolonged the woman's life. However, it was the last burning of a lamp, and it seemed like her fate could not be changed. Sangshu was in despair when he still could not find any spiritual medicine that could save her throughout the land of Sangshu. In the end, he decided to walk the path of 1,000 calamities, even if his soul was destroyed, just to see one of the rulers of the underworld, the Emperor of Fengdu. After a narrow escape from death, he finally saw the ruler of the underworld. The Emperor of Fengdu also told him that the only way to save the woman was to send her to the heavenly realm and find a heavenly immortal to replenish her immortal source, ignite her immortal body, or obtain the celestial source of the heavenly realm for her to swallow. Sangshu brought Xianku to the heavenly court after knowing the way, and they arrived at the divine gate. However, the arrogant deities ignored Sangshu's pleas. To them, the deities who had been corroded by the Yin energy were no longer fit to be deities. They were unwilling to accept the woman's identity as a deity, and even more unwilling to save her. Sangshu met a deity in front of the divine gate when he was in despair. The deity asked Sangshu if he was willing to betray the underworld and become his blade. If he was willing, he would save the woman. Sangshu was lost at that moment, but he nodded resolutely when he saw the weak woman in his arms. After that, Sangshu would go to the divine gate every 10,000 years to ask the deity to replenish the woman's immortal source and ignite her immortal body. He would collect information about the major regions of the underworld and report it to the deity every 10,000 years. However, the deity was no longer willing to help Xian 30,000 years ago. He told Sangshu that the underworld seemed to have forgotten about their past hatred, and that there was no longer any possibility of revenge. As a blade, he had lost his value, so he was no longer needed. This time, Sangshu was completely enraged. He hated the unfairness of the heavens. He had sacrificed so much for this, but why did fate play such a trick on him? After that, His Excellency Sangshu's hair turned white overnight. There was a saying that the gods were watching from above, but to Sangshu, there was only fear in the dark night. Xianku escaped a few times when she knew that she was a burden to Sangshu. She wanted to find a place to die quietly so that Sangshu would not have to run around for her anymore. The furious Sangshu had tears in his eyes. He endured the pain and imprisoned Xianku. He told her that he would think of a way, and that he would not allow her to die. Since the heartless deities were unwilling to help, Sangshu set his sights on the source of God in the heaven realm. However, the source of God was a precious treasure in the heaven realm. It was even more difficult to obtain it than a heavenly immortal. No matter how difficult it was, Sangshu did not back down. He had been planning for tens of thousands of years just to attack the heaven realm and extend the life of the woman he loved. Sangshu's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile as he looked at the giant golden palm that was descending from the sky. 10,000 years of hard work was just a joke. Chapter 125. Just when the golden palm was about to hit Sangshu, it suddenly exploded in the air, and the entire sky was filled with golden spiritual chi rain. "Big Dipper, you've crossed the line." An old voice resounded in the sky. "Fengdu, Sangshu has violated the rules we set. Why are you protecting him? Mistakes have to be punished, but since this is my territory, let me handle it. Fengdu, an angry roar resounded in the sky. You want to fight? The old voice resounded again. All right, I'll give you face, but you must give us an explanation for this. If you don't give us a satisfactory answer, the war between the two realms is inevitable. After all, his mistake is not a small one. Then, the golden palm condensed in the sky again. It grabbed the 8 immortals and disappeared into the sky. Sigh. Sangshu, I didn't expect you to go this far. Sangshu's lips trembled slightly when he heard the voice. He did not expect the Emperor of Fengdu to help him. He knew what a huge mistake he had made. What he wanted to do would even cause a war between the underworld and the heavens. Even so, the Emperor of Fengdu was willing to protect him. Sangshu was filled with self-blame when he thought of his betrayal. Sangshu looked at the sky and knelt on the ground, kowtowing. Your Majesty, Sangshu is willing to take responsibility for everything I've done. I'm willing to perish and never drag the underworld down. Sigh. A sigh resounded in the sky again. Take care of your funeral matters. Go. Thank you, Your Majesty. Sangshu kowtowed a few more times before he stood up and walked into the palace. Inside the palace, Sangshu was wearing an embroidered royal robe, and in his arms was a beautiful woman. Do you know how to write it? The historian dipped his brush in his brush and raised it slowly with trembling hands. My Majesty, do you really want to do this? Sangshu nodded calmly. He knew that he had to make a decision in order not to drag the millions of living beings in the land of Sangshu down. The sorrowful historian finally wrote on the paper, Sangshu, His Excellency of the land of Sangshu, killed Yuan Yuanshu to seize the throne. During his reign, he oppressed the living beings of the land of Sangshu and indulged in women all day long. He was a shameless ruler with wild ambitions. He wanted to start a war between the immortals and the underworld with his own power. The living beings of the land of Sangshu could bear witness to his sinful behavior. After he was done, the scribe took a deep breath and passed the paper to Sangshu. Sangshu glanced at it, and a hint of disappointment appeared on his face. He then nodded. Inform all the regions in Sangshu and warn the future generations that the evildoer of Sangshu has been eradicated. The world will celebrate. After the scribe left, Sangshu looked at the beautiful lady in front of him with a hint of gentleness in his eyes. So what if I'm hated by millions of people as long as you don't abandon me? Do you regret? You? Is to say king, to say emperor, to is the world. The woman smiled, her eyes filled with love. Don't leave me behind this time. Let's go together. I'll be worried if you stay. The woman's eyes were filled with happiness. She picked up the wine glass from the table. A late wedding toast. Do you want me to marry you? Yes. Sangshu picked up the wine glass too. Their wrists intertwined. After drinking the wine, their bodies slowly petrified. At the moment of death, they were still hugging each other, but their faces were filled with smiles. Perhaps leaving together was the best relief they could get from their hundreds of thousands of years of running. Sigh. The old man sighed in the hall. Sangshu, I'll send you to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Whatever happens in the mortal world from now on, never mind. The 2 souls were extracted from their petrified bodies and disappeared into thin air. The bridge of helplessness in the 6 paths of reincarnation. The woman looked at the bowl of soup that Meng Pa handed to her. A trace of nostalgia flashed in her eyes, but she still took it and drank it in one gulp. However, Sangshu's figure appeared in her mind again when she closed her eyes. Love is deeply rooted, but this path can only be passed after the past has been severed. He's already gone, and he only drank one bowl. Tears rolled down Xian's beautiful eyes. She reached out to Meng Pa again. Another bowl. I want to be with him, even in my next life. Meng Pa could not bear to see her like this, but she still handed her another bowl. Xianka suddenly crouched by the bridge and cried after drinking the water. I still can't forget him. Meng Pa sighed as she looked at the crying Xianku. Forget it. I'll help you forget him. A ball of pure water spirit appeared in Meng Po's palm, and she handed it to the crying Xianku. Drink it. You'll forget him once you drink it. After Sien could drank the pure water of the river of forgetfulness, she slowly stood up and walked forward woodenly. However, for some reason, tears flowed down from her eyes. She felt like she had lost something important, but she could not remember what it was. A figure appeared next to Meng Pe. He looked at the woman's retreating figure affectionately until she disappeared. Have you decided? Meng Pe looked at Sangshu and asked. This is all my fault. If I were to be thrown into the 6 paths of reincarnation, it would be no different from pardoning me. I've already made a mistake, and I'll take responsibility for my actions. I can only atone for my sins by destroying my soul. I don't want to drag the Emperor of Fengdu into this, and I don't want to start a war between the two worlds. Mengpa could not help but let out a long sigh as she looked at Sangshu's determined face. She opened the gate of forgetfulness under the river of forgetfulness. Sangshu will no longer exist in this world, but I, Mengpa, will remember you. Sangshu nodded and walked towards the gate of forgetfulness. Meng Po's voice rang again, just as Sangshu's figure was about to be devoured by the gate of forgetfulness. 100 lifetimes of bad karma, Sangshu. I'll help you awaken the memories of your past life, and take a look at your past love. This is the last thing I can do. The light in front of him grew brighter and brighter. At the last moment, figures appeared one after another. Sangshu could not help but cry as he saw his 100 lifetimes of reincarnation. So, she was always by his side. In my first life, I was the king. Even though I ruled over the world and created a picturesque landscape, I was still no match for the cinnabar in her eyes and peerless elegance. In my second life, I was the general. Even though I spent half my life in glory and rode on horses, I was still no match for her black hair and flowery smile. In my third life, I was the chivalrous man. Even though I traveled the world with my sword and became famous all over the world, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my fourth life, I was the musician. Even though I traveled the world with my sword, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my fifth life, I was the monk. Even though I cleansed my heart and restrained my desires, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my sixth life, I was the minister of the country. Even though I left my name in the history books, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my seventh life, I was the scholar. Even though I wore brocade and made a name for myself, I was still no match for her elegant figure. In my eighth life, I was the farmer. Even though there were peach blossoms and mulberry trees, I was still no match for her red wedding gown. In my ninth life, I was the painter. Even though painting was hard to come by, I was still no match for her simple hands. In this life, I was the king. Even though I had millions of soldiers and thousands of good generals, I was still no match for her smile. Ha ha! His soul was gradually being torn apart by the river of forgetfulness. However, the pain of his soul being torn apart was nothing compared to the pain of lovesickness in 100 lifetimes of reincarnation. Sangshu's white hair danced in the wind. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was filled with the pain of lovesickness for 100 lifetimes. In the end, the bad karma ended in this life. At the very last moment when his soul was torn apart, Sangshu's face was still filled with reluctance. Chapter 126. The moment Sangshu's soul was shredded by the power of the river of forgetfulness, the few consciousnesses that were watching everything slowly faded away. The once overlord of the land of Sangshu had finally vanished into thin air. The only thing left behind was a fabricated history, a sinner that was despised by the later generations. However, at this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the river of forgetfulness gate. A small hand reached out from the inside, grabbing something. Inside the house, Bailey suddenly turned around and hugged Lu Wu, who was watching TV. She burst into tears. Lu Wu, who was in her arms, was dumbfounded. Wu, the person behind the blood-colored formation, is dead. I saw his memory before he died. How pitiful. Looking at the dumbfounded Lu Wu, Bailey told him what Sangshu experienced before he died, as well as the contents of Sangshu's memory. After hearing about Sangshu's tragic experience, Lu Wu sighed. Wu, I think our external server has found an ideal place to develop. Bailey lowered her head and said to Lu Wu with tears in her eyes. You mean the land of Xiu? Lu had already realized what Bailey was talking about. Yes, the land of Xiu is now without a master. It won't be too difficult for the players to develop here. Moreover, we have gained an additional help. If we can wake him up, the land of Xiu will be ours. Additional help? What do you mean? Bailey let go of Lu Wu's hand and drew a line in the air with her right hand. A small white ball of light slowly floated out of the artifact. I've saved him, but this is all that's left. Looking at the white ball of light, Lu Wu was stunned. This is His Excellency, Xiu. Bailey nodded and held the white ball of light in her hand, kneading it like cotton candy. This is all that's left. I've already engraved the mark of the artifact on it. Even if he regains consciousness, he will never betray us. However, it's very difficult to completely recover him at this stage. We need a large amount of soul power to nourish him. Hearing this, Lu Wu's eyes lit up. The thought of a powerful His Excellency becoming his subordinate made Lu Wu feel like he was about to rise. How many soul coins will it cost to recover him? Bailey counted with her fingers and looked up with a serious face. Probably more than 10 million. His Excellency Xiu is very powerful. Perhaps the exact cost will be even higher. The smile on Lu Wu's face gradually froze. 10 million. Lu Wu was a little disheartened by the number. He thought that he would soon have a peerless warrior, but it seemed that he could not afford it. At that moment, he felt the pain of the players who owned the ship. While empathizing with them, Lu Wu decided to increase the intensity of his exploitation. He wanted to inflict more pain on them. Only by doing so could he alleviate his own pain. The land of Baiki, the illusory realm. This area to the south of the mansion of the underworld was shrouded in clouds and mist all year round. It was impossible to see clearly in front of one. At this moment, a few dozen members of the Heaven-Slaying Alliance slowly advanced under Lu Zhan's lead. The fog on the map slowly parted, and the scenery in the illusory world became clearer and clearer. During this period of time, Lu Zhan had been troubled. The leaders of the other guilds had their own fortuitous encounters. They were either the son of the sea or the demonic god's inheritance. However, he did not have any fortuitous encounters. In this aspect, he was lagging far behind. Therefore, Lu Zhan decided to follow the advice of the experts on the forum and bring his people around. Perhaps he would find some opportunities. The reason why he chose the illusory realm shrouded in thick fog this time was because there were not many players exploring this area. There might be a lot of unexplored resources. After walking for about half an hour, Lu Zhan and the others still found nothing. They could not help but feel a little annoyed. However, at this moment, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the thick fog. Its scarlet eyes stared at Lu Zhan and the others through the thick fog. Roar! Waves of fishy wind blew, startling Lu Zhan and the others. This is the place where the immortal king secluded himself. You ouch! The voice of a shadow that was hit by the stone changed suddenly. It was no longer domineering, but childish like a child. You! Before he could finish his sentence, Lu Zhan picked up another stone and smashed it on his body. How dare you scare me? I'm not afraid, even if you're the demonic god. Upon seeing this, a few subordinates followed Lu Zhan to pick up stones and smash them on the black shadow. Stop! 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 Let's talk this out. Don't fight. The childish voice came again. The huge black shadow shrunk and the thick fog dispersed. Big Goose. Lu Zhan looked at the snow-white, celestial crane in front of him in shock. It's a celestial crane. A celestial crane? Tonghua defended himself angrily. Smack! Lu Zhan picked up another stone and smashed it on Tonghua's head. Big Goose. This time, Tonghua did not dare to resist. He only protested silently with resentful eyes. Big Goose, why can you speak? Lu Zhan asked curiously. Tonghua was filled with grief and indignation. He felt that he was being bullied by such a weak creature. When the king of Baiki was still around, he was considered a ghost king and was respected by the people. However, he was now living such a miserable life. It was so upsetting. Smack! Another stone smashed on Tonghua's head. Our boss is asking you a question. Tonghua glanced at Lu Zhan and the others with resentful eyes again. There's no opportunity. This is an illusory realm. I'm the only one here. Smack! I'm going to kill you all. Tongua, who was smashed again, could not stand it anymore. He flapped his wings and rushed forward. Smack! 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 Tongua was surrounded by a few people from the Heaven-Slaying Alliance. He lay on the ground, barely breathing. Big Goose, are you still not going to tell me the truth? You're so weak that you can't even fly. How dare you call yourself a Ghost King? I already despise your clumsiness as my mount. Don't you think you're too arrogant, just because you've occupied an area of Beiki? Obviously, Lu Zhan and the others did not believe that such a weak Big Goose could be a Ghost King. After all, even Cha Na, who was at the Ghost General level, was terrifyingly powerful. The strength of a rock boulder was something that the players could not fight against at this stage. Lu Zhan and the others would never believe that this crane was a Ghost King. Tonggua's eyes were filled with tears. He felt like he had nothing left to live for. When the king of Beiki was still around, he treated Tonggua as a distinguished guest. He even made Beiki's illusory realm his own territory and named him Tonggua the Ghost King. However, he was now despised by others even as a mount. I'm so angry. Tell me, what kind of opportunity is there in this illusory realm? I'll spare your life if you tell me. Lu Zhan threatened as he slowly lifted Tonggua's neck. However, at this moment, a brilliance flashed across the crane's body. The artifact's analytical data appeared. Tonggua the Ghost King, the ruler of the illusory realm, the incarnation of the strongest guardian spirit in the land of Beiki. His strength has reached the peak of the Ghost King realm. Specific information. Note: this creature is extremely dangerous. Players are advised to stay away from it. Lu Zhan and the others were dumbfounded when they saw the data that suddenly appeared. Extremely dangerous? Lu Zhan shook Tonggua in his hand as he spoke. He still could not believe it. Meanwhile, Tonggua was flapping his wings. His eyes were white, and he looked like he would suffocate to death at any time. It's indeed quite fierce.